Chapter 13:17. This was a very shabby little shop. It was even narrower than Mu Zishian's miscellaneous goods store. Inside the shop, there were all kinds of stones piled up haphazardly. A white-haired old man was sitting at the entrance, carving stones with a chisel. From his diligent appearance, one could tell that he was a legendary professional. Above the old man's head was a line of words, Mason Jabel. Seeing Jabel, Wang Yu quickly walked over and respectfully greeted him. "Hello, old mister." NPCs were always straightforward with their actions. Hearing Wang Yu's voice, Jabel raised his head and looked at Wang Yu before getting straight to the point. "Ah, so it's the city lord. What can I do for you?" Since the NPC was so straightforward, Wang Yu naturally wouldn't beat around the bush. She immediately stated her intentions. Originally, Wang Yu thought that since this old man called him the city lord, he would listen to his every request. But who would have thought that Jabel would reply with an expressionless face? "I'm sorry, city lord. This one's ability is limited. If it was my great-grandfather, then he might be able to help you." "Then where's your great-grandfather?" Wang Yu asked. After asking this question, Wang Yu immediately regretted it. This old man looked to be at least 60 or 70 years old. His great-grandfather must have been cold for who knows how long. Sure enough, as soon as Jabel's great-grandfather was mentioned, Jabel put down his work and said, "I don't know. I heard from my grandfather that he went to collect stones and never came back. If he was still here, then I would definitely be able to learn all of his skills. That way, I will be able to help the city lord." Hearing Jabel's words, Wang Yu's heart tightened. This old man isn't asking me to find someone, right? Just as Wang Yu was worrying, a system prompt popped up. "You have triggered the quest, Old Mason's Wish. Do you wish to accept?" Seeing the system prompt, Wang Yu wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He didn't know what to do. If it was murder or arson, then Wang Yu could just bring Chuanjin with him. But to find an old man who died hundreds of years ago, wasn't this just making things difficult for him? However, the old stonemason had said that he would only be able to help others if he helped him first. One had to know that Wang Yu couldn't refuse the city lord's mission, nor could he fail. If he wanted to continue, he would have to help Jabel. Although Wang Yu really didn't want to help the old man find the person, he still bit the bullet and accepted it. At the same time, he received a system notification. "You have accepted the quest, Old Stonemason's Wish." Quest level, none. Quest details. Help find the relics of the old stonemason's great-grandfather, January 1st. "So, you're looking for a relic. I thought you were looking for someone. You gave me a fright." Seeing the quest notification, Wang Yu could not help but break out in a cold sweat, thinking that it was a false alarm. It seemed like this little coincidence was deliberately arranged by the game developers. After all, no normal player would have a missing person quest on them. If Wang Yu had rejected the quest chain would have ended there. It had to be said that the game developers were really unscrupulous in order to trick the players. Obviously, the so-called relic should be the stone tablet in Wang Yu's hand. It turned out that this stone tablet was a quest item. As for why he didn't accept the quest, Wang Yu had a rough guess. Wuji's judgment was correct. The reason why the city wall was damaged was to be found by a professional. Obviously, Jabel was the most important part of this quest. Point at the Heavens had received the quest early in the morning, so this quest chain had also been activated, as the name suggested. The City Lord quest was not only for the city manager, but also for the city lord. It wasn't difficult to explain why Wang Yu, who wasn't part of the quest, was able to obtain the quest item. Wang Yu couldn't be blamed for intervening. She could only blame the players at Point Heavens for being too stupid. They were still waiting for their prey at the foot of the wall. They didn't even know that their quest had been intercepted. Thinking of this, Wang Yu took out the stone tablet and handed it to Jabel. "I found this in the summit of the mountains. I think it should be related to your great-grandfather, Arthur." Jabel took the stone tablet and studied it for a moment, pleasantly surprised. "That's right, this is my great-grandfather's stone tablet. Thank you, City Lord, for helping me find what I needed." Hearing Jabel's attitude, Wang Yu was once again stunned. This old man only cared about whether or not the stone tablet was what he wanted. He didn't even care about the whereabouts of his legendary great-grandfather. Was this guy the son of the old man next door? In the end, he was still a low-level NPC. His personality was flawed, and he couldn't be compared to an intelligent NPC with delicate emotions. After obtaining the stone tablet, a dazzling light burst out from Jabel's body. The name above his head changed from Stonemason Jabel to Master Jabel. At the same time, his temperament also changed. His originally dull eyes were now filled with a bit of life. It seems that the stone tablet was an upgrade plug-in, turning him from a low-level NPC to an intelligent NPC. On the side, Wang Yu asked again, "Can you help me now?" Jabel gave a deep bow to Wang Yu. "Jabel is at your service, my respected city lord." Just as Jabel was summoned by Wang Yu, the team leader who accepted the quest, "Don't shoot," suddenly received a system prompt. "Your quest, Dangerous Wall, has failed. Prestige -20. Fuck, what's going on? Hearing the system prompt, Captain Don't Shoot's mood was indescribably complicated. Prestige was the foundation of a main city's manager. The maximum value was 100. Once it fell below 60, the civilian NPCs in the area would be dissatisfied with the manager. Once it fell below 40, there was a possibility of riots. As a manager of the Western District, Captain Don't Shoot's initial prestige was only 60. These days, he had diligently spent a lot of money to develop the Western District. It wasn't easy for him to raise his prestige to 80, but he didn't expect it to go back to square one. Captain Don't Shoot's resentment was self-evident. He angrily sent a message to Big Bear. "What happened? How did the quest fail?" It's Iron Ox. We were doing a quest when he suddenly appeared and forcefully stole it." "Big Bear, wait a minute. I'm not an idiot. From the tone of the captain's voice, I can tell that I've messed things up this time. I might as well go all the way and push all the blame on Wang Yu." As it turned out, Big Bear's method was quite effective. Hearing that Wang Yu stole the quest, Captain Don't Shoot's anger immediately calmed down. After a moment of silence, Captain Don't Shoot said, "Did he just steal the quest? You didn't cause any trouble, did you?" No. Big Bear was speechless. He didn't expect this shield to be so useful. Chapter 13:18. On the other hand, Wang Yu and Wuji also brought Jabel to the wall. It could be said that he was a professional and had come to a conclusion with just a casual glance. He said to Wang Yu with certainty, "The wall was damaged because of the petrifying powder." "Petrifying powder? What's that?" Wang Yu asked curiously. Since it was an investigation, he needed to get to the bottom of it. Jabel replied, "It's a special mineral extracted from seawater. It can decompose stone, but it's very rare. Only the pirates in Harbor City have it." "Harbor City? Pirates?" As soon as Jabel said this, Wang Yu and Wuji suddenly understood. It seems like these two are the key words of this quest. However, the two soon became confused again. Although Wang Yu and Wuji haven't been to all 300 main cities in the game, but after playing for so long, they still know the names of the main cities. But they haven't heard of a main city called Harbor City. "Where's Harbor City?" Wang Yu asked Jabel in confusion. "I don't know." Jabel shook his head, then said, "I think you should ask Sir Willie. It said that many years ago, when Yu Huicheng was occupied by pirates, Sir Willie led the army and forced them to retreat to Harbor City. Only Yu Huicheng has been a Harbor City." "Well, I still have to look for Willie. I didn't expect that muscular guy to have such heroic deeds. No wonder he can become a city lord. Since only Willie knows where Harbor City is, Wang Yu had no choice but to bring Wuji back to the city lord's mansion. Seeing that Wang Yu had returned, Willie took the initiative to greet him. "City lord, did you find out?" "Yes." Wang Yu nodded and relayed Jabel's words to Willie. "It's those damn pirates again." After Willie heard Wang Yu's account, he could not help but be furious. "I should have killed them all back then. It seems like they already know that I'm not the city lord, so they plan to make a comeback." Although he knew that Willie was just an NPC, the kid's words made Wang Yu a little unhappy. Meow. This grandson was obviously saying that Wang Yu was not as intimidating as him. However, this was normal. In the eyes of the players, Wang Yu and the Quan Jun sect were like scourges and ferocious beasts. In the eyes of the NPCs, who knew who Iron Bull was? Just as Wang Yu was cursing in his heart, Willie continued, "My lord, those pirates are vicious by nature. Now that the city wall has been destroyed, if we let them kill their way into the city, the people will be plunged into misery and suffering. You must be responsible for your people." As soon as Willie finished his sentence, Wang Yu received a system notification. System notification. You have triggered the Hidden City Lord quest, Dangerous Wall, 2nd stage, One Piece quest level A. Do you accept? Seeing the system notification, Wang Yu's face was filled with helplessness. Refusing or giving up on the first stage of the quest would reduce his reputation as the city lord to 0. Now that he knew the real reason for the Dangerous Wall, if he refused to accept the 2nd stage of the quest, his reputation would be reduced to negative. At that time, Yu Huicheng would be in chaos. Wang Yu's position as the city lord was like a sheep herding sheep. Normally, it was fine if he did not do anything. After all, there was an NPC acting as the city lord. However, if the sheep were to go berserk and bite people, then it would be a problem of personal ability. Yu Huicheng was the foundation of Chuanjin survival. Wang Yu did not want to see this happen. Accept. Wang Yu did not hesitate to accept. System notification. You have accepted the Hidden City Lord quest, Dangerous Wall, 2nd stage, One Piece, quest level, quest details. Within 24 hours, kill all the pirates in Port City. Number of pirates alive, 50,000. Quest hint. This is a large-scale combat quest. Please proceed with companions. The maximum number of people is 1,000. Quest reward. Sea Road. West City Development plus 100. Reputation plus 50. System notification. The map of Port City has been unlocked. You can enter from Yu Huicheng Port. Following the system notification, Wang Yu opened the world map. Sure enough, on the map of the Great World, part of the fog had disappeared, and Port City impressively appeared on the map. F*CK. Kill 50,000 pirates in 24 hours? Isn't this quest too much? Looking at the quest in his hand, Wuji felt the game's malice for the first time. Killing pirates was not difficult for Wang Yu's team, but the problem was that this was a F*King time-limited quest, not to mention how big Port City was and whether the pirates would play hide-and-seek with the players. Even if the pirates lined up to face Wang Yu head-on, it would be a fantasy to want to kill 50,000 pirates in 24 hours. Wang Yu casually glanced at the quest panel and said, "It's not just the two of us. The limit of the team is 1,000 people, and each person can only kill an average of 50. That's not how it's calculated." Wuji was speechless at Wang Yu's casual attitude. This was 50,000 pirates, not 500. With such a number of people in the team, they were definitely not stragglers. Once the pirates were organized and disciplined, it would be very difficult to defeat them in a short time, even if it was a team of 1,000 people. After all, this was not an ordinary arithmetic problem. Moreover, the profession of pirates had always been synonymous with cruelty and killing. Wuji usually commanded small-scale guerrilla warfare. It was fine to fight against those who were organized and undisciplined, but if he really had to fight against a large team that had been on the battlefield for a long time, even if Wuji had a myriad of strategies in his mind, it was inevitable that he would be an armchair strategist at this moment. Seeing that Wuji, such a savage guy, had a guilty conscience, Wang Yu also realized the difficulty of this mission, but the mission had already been completed, and he could not give up. So he pondered for a moment and said, "Why don't we go and take a look first before making preparations?" As the saying goes, know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. This was the case in Team PK, not to mention such a large-scale battle, especially when they were going to fight on the pirates' home ground. They still needed to understand the enemy's information. AI. Wuji sighed and said, "That's the only way." The coordinates of Port City were on the sea. From the distance, it was not far from Yu Huicheng, only 2 main cities apart. However, because it was not the map of District 7, they had to take an airship from the port. Fortunately, the distance was very close. 15 minutes later, Wang Yu and Wuji landed on a very hidden port outside Port City. It seemed that the details of the game were quite good. They were not arrogant enough to set the port in Port City. After getting off the airship, Wang Yu and Wuji stretched out their wings and flew over Port City. Chapter 1319. Rebirth has always been very casual in naming cities. Yu Huichang was named because the sun was always setting, Sky Dragon was named because it was next to the Dragon Island, and Harbor City, as the name suggests, is a harbor city. To be exact, it is an island. Looking from top to bottom, Harbor City is a medium-sized island located next to the mainland. The scenery is very good. Although Harbor City is just an island, it plays a vital role in the background story of Rebirth, because this island is located on the most important route of the hero's continent. Shipping, no matter what era, is of vital existence. In this era of swords and magic is no exception. Because of this, Harbor City has become the main transportation route from the hero's continent to other continents. And Harbor City is also the largest supply station in the entire world of Rebirth. Due to occupying this important road, Harbor City was once even more prosperous than the Holy City. However, many years ago, a group of greedy pirates wandered here, killed the owner of Harbor City, and controlled the route. Since then, Harbor City has declined. As a matter of fact, it didn't matter to the natives of the world of Rebirth whether it was pirates or whoever was in charge of Harbor City. As long as they behaved themselves, it didn't matter to the natives of the world of Rebirth. However, the pirates were cruel and insatiable. The money earned on this route wasn't enough to feed the pirates, and there might even be danger to their lives. Naturally, nobody would choose this route. Because of the behavior of the pirates, now no one uses the route, so the pirates often harm and invade the surrounding cities. Yu Huichang was harassed in the past, and finally, this group of pirates was defeated by the former city owner Willie, and they dared not come out to cause trouble again. In fact, the lords of the nearby main cities have also sent troops to encircle this group of pirates. But after all, everyone is not good at the water station, and Harbor City is easy to defend and difficult to attack. It has the best ships and cannons in the world. It is very difficult to attack. In addition, the lords have their own evil intentions. No one is willing to help. And finally, they can only let the pirates become stronger day by day. Now, the pirates have developed to a total of 50,000 people. Even if the lord of the neighboring city wants to get rid of them, it is already difficult. The above are the records of the pirates in the library. Wang Yu and Wuji flew in the air, enjoying the panoramic view of Harbor City. Seeing the layout of Harbor City, Wuji couldn't help but sigh. The island itself was circular, but the terrain was quite strange. Ordinary islands had hills in the middle and low terrain on the edges. Harbor City was the opposite. This city was surrounded by mountains, and only a narrow valley led to the city. The surrounding mountains were the most natural barrier. After so many years of repair by the pirates, the archer towers and other defensive facilities were integrated with the terrain, making the barrier impregnable. It was absolutely impossible to enter from the periphery. As for the narrow valley, it was a terrain where one man could hold the pass against 10,000 enemies. Once the door was closed, the enemy could be repelled thousands of miles away. It was like an iron bucket. No wonder there's so many pirates in this broken city. Meow. In this kind of terrain, let alone a group of ruthless pirates, even a group of fishermen can rely on this kind of terrain to fight 100 enemies. Fortunately, it didn't rush to clean up, otherwise, they wouldn't know how they died. It seems that this A-level task is quite valuable. When Wuji was thinking about how to break through the city's defense, suddenly Wang Yu pointed directly below and muttered, "What is that thing?" When Wuji heard this, he quickly looked in the direction Wang Yu pointed and saw a strange cylindrical barrel building in the middle of Harbor City. Looking down from above, the barrel was filled with black sand, and the sand was filled with water. It's not strange to have a fountain in the central square, but it's a bit weird to have this thing. No wonder Wang Yu would notice this thing. Wuji read a lot and knew a lot. Seeing the strange building on the ground, he pushed the glasses on the bridge of his nose and said lightly, "This is a water filter. Pirates also have to eat and drink." "Oh," Wang Yu nodded in understanding, then asked in bewilderment, Didn't they say that there were 50,000 pirates in Port City? Why don't I see anyone? Wuji touched his chin and said, I'm not sure. Why don't we try blowing it up first? As he said this, Wuji took out a firecracker from his pocket and threw it down. This thing was made during the Spring Festival. Although it didn't do much damage to monsters, it was loud and was a good tool to attract monsters. Bang! The firecracker fell to the ground with a deafening sound. Dang, dang, dang. At the same time, a loud alarm came from the watchtower in front of Harbor City. Hearing the alarm, a dense mass of pirates rushed from all directions and rushed to the entrance of Harbor City at an extremely fast speed. As Wuji expected, this group of pirates advanced and retreated in an orderly manner. At first glance, it was obvious that they were a professionally trained army. Such an opponent was not at the same level as a straggler. Wang Yu threw a detection spell over, and the pirates' information appeared in front of them. Pirate Raider, LV50, Elite, Skills, Charge / Talent, Brutal Background Introduction. Pirate soldiers in Harbor City have received strict training. Pirate Scout, LV50, Elite, HP, 50,000 MP, 10,000 Skills, Sneak, Assassination Talent, Bloodthirst Background Introduction. The pirate scouts of Harbor City appear and disappear unpredictably, making them extremely difficult to deal with. These monsters were quite arrogant, but their attributes were average. Although they had the title of elite, they were not much stronger than the average LV50 monsters. However, this number, when the alarm sounded, instantly became a black mass, which really made people scalp numb. Fortunately, there were no long-range professions. Otherwise, with so many pirates guarding the entrance, it would only take a few rounds to destroy the 1,000 players. Bang! Just as the two looked at the pirates on the ground and sighed, suddenly a gunshot sounded not far away. Wang Yu reacted very quickly. When he heard the gunshot, he subconsciously turned his head and pulled Wuji at the same time. Whoosh! A bullet flew past the two of them. Wang Yu and Wuji followed the sound and saw a group of pirates with guns on the top of the canyon on both sides of the entrance. The number of these pirates was not as exaggerated as the scouts and raiders, but they were more skilled. They were in pairs of 2 or 3, standing on both sides of the top of the mountain. Pirate Lookout, LV55, Elite, HP, 20,000 MP, 10,000 Skills, Snipe, Accurate Shooting Talent, One-Hit Kill Background Introduction. Strictly trained pirates, equipped with the most advanced naval weapons, extremely high attack power. Chapter 1320. F***CK. One-Hit KO. Wuji was speechless when he saw the attributes of the Pirate Lookout. One-Hit KO, as the name suggested, was a super high damage effect. When the difference in strength between the player and the enemy was too great, or when the attack hit the enemy's vitals, this special effect would appear. It could deal 3 times the original attack power to the target. Critical hits dealt double damage, and 3 times the critical hit effect would add up to 6 times the damage. In other words, if you could deal 1,000 HP in one hit after triggering the KO, you would deal 6,000 HP. Although it wasn't a true instant kill, it was still quite shocking. Because of this, the one-hit kill attribute was the most sought-after attribute for DPS classes, second to none. Who would have thought that these pirate lookouts would have such a shameless talent? The terrain was a two-way street. If there were only a few melee classes guarding the entrance, then even if everyone was well-equipped, they would still have to struggle a little. However, with these range classes with high attack power and a high vantage point, the backline DPS wouldn't be as safe. These pirates were so close to each other, so they naturally had a chain of aggro. As soon as the gunshots rang out, all the pirate lookouts turned their heads and aimed their guns at Wang Yu and Shifeng. Bang, 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 bang. Gunshots rang out continuously, and a hail of bullets arrived in an instant. Wang Yu spread his wings, grabbed Wuji, and flew away from Harbor City at an extremely fast speed. After returning from Harbor City, Wuji fell into deep thought. Wang Yu also put away his previous scornful attitude. Since the quest stated that it was a large-scale battle that could only be completed by 1,000 people, The difficulty was definitely not something that could be completed by one person. From the layout of Harbor City, it looked like an impregnable fortress, with the innate geographical advantage. Just the pirate ambushers and pirate scouts alone would not be able to force their way in. Moreover, there were so many pirate lookouts with extremely high attack power hidden on the top of the mountain. Although the firing speed of firearms was not as fast as crossbows, their power and range were far beyond that of ordinary crossbows. The pirate lookouts had the range bonus from the high vantage point, and with the buff from the arrow tower, the players at the bottom of the valley were also within the range of the pirate lookouts. After all, there was only one way into the city. In such a narrow space, the players could only passively take a beating. It was obviously suicide to fight against the pirates blocking the gate with the attacks of the pirate lookouts. Now, letting Wang Yu lead people to clear the pirates was the same as when our army attacked Tiger Mountain back then. The leader of the pirates was the Mountain Eagle. Would it be difficult to take Wang Yu to fight the tiger up the mountain like Yang Zero? There are only fish in the sea. Fishing up the mountain is obviously not impressive enough. Moreover, if these pirates dared to attack Afterglow City's walls, they must have heard about it. Even if they didn't know who Wang Yu was, it was still ridiculous for a player to go undercover among monsters. Just as Wang Yu was letting his imagination run wild, Wu Ji suddenly slammed the table and said, "All right, let's do it this way. F*CK, you scare me." Wang Yu was shocked, and then he asked in confusion, "What should I do?" Wu Ji said indifferently, "Let's go find him first." "That's easy," Wang Yu said. "I'll send a message to Blood Red War Flag right now and ask them to borrow some people. No, don't look for Blood Alliance." Wu Ji waved his hand. "Why?" Wang Yu didn't understand. Blood Red Alliance and Xuanjin had always been on good terms. Who else could they look for if not Blood Red War Flag? Wu Ji said expressionlessly, "Because of the mission reward." "Mission reward?" Wang Yu opened the mission pane and came to a sudden realization after looking at the mission reward. Of course, one of the rewards for this mission was the development rate of the West District. Development was the most direct measure of a guild's management ability. Blood Red War Flag's Blood Red Alliance was in charge of Yu Huiqing's most prosperous central administrative district. The West District was finger in the skies territory. Since Captain Don't Shoot wasn't lacking in money, under his investment, the West District was developing at a fast pace and was about to surpass the central administrative district. Xuanjin had participated in the shady dealings between these two guilds, so Wang Yu obviously understood. Now that they were enemies, asking Blood Red Alliance to help Finger in the Sky increase its development rate was asking too much. Even if Blood Red War Flag couldn't save face, there were so many Blood Red Alliance players. They all had their own thoughts. If they didn't put in the effort, wouldn't all their efforts be wasted? Then who should I look for? Wang Yu asked. Wu Ji said matter-of-factly, "Of course, Captain Don't Shoot." Ugh. Wang Yu was a bit troubled. That's not a good idea. Blood Red Alliance and Xuanjin were on good terms because Xuanjin had helped them complete quests before. Finger in the Sky's submission to Xuanjin wasn't that friendly. They were beaten into submission by Wang Yu. So, all along, although Finger in the Sky's members respected Xuanjin, they weren't really friends. Just an hour ago, Wang Yu had threatened Finger in the Sky's second-in-command and stolen their quest, asking for help at this time. How could he even open his mouth? Wang Yu was a person who cared about his face. Slapping himself in the face like this was something that Wang Yu couldn't do. Who knew that Wu Ji didn't care at all? What's so good about it? We are helping him, and he has to ask us for help. How much money do you think we should ask him for? TSK. Wang Yu was very impressed with Wu Ji's ability to distort the truth. They were clearly asking for help, but he still wanted to ask for money. What kind of logic was that? After thinking for a while, Wang Yu said, "It doesn't matter if it's money or not, as long as they are willing to help us." Let me correct you, we are helping them. After Wu Ji repeated the question of who was helping who to Wang Yu, he opened his friend's list and found Captain Don't Shoot. He casually sent a message over. "Captain, what are you doing?" Originally, when he heard that Big Bear and Wang Yu had a conflict, Captain Don't Shoot was worried. After all, it was Xuanjin's specialty to seek revenge for the smallest grievance. Now that he suddenly received a message from Wuji, Captain Don't Shoot couldn't help but feel his heart skip a beat. After being stunned for a full half a minute, Captain Don't Shoot replied carefully, "I'm in a daze. Boss Wuji, what's the matter? What happened in the morning was our fault. Can you persuade Ox God not to make life difficult for my subordinates?" Seeing Captain Don't Shoot's reply, Wuji was speechless. He angrily pointed at Wang Yu and lamented, You're about to become Yu Huiching's scourge. Did you scare Big Bear today?" "Meow. To scare the boss of a guild to this extent, probably only this guy could do it." "Huh." Wang Yu laughed and said, "His values are not right, and his behavior is not proper. I'm just giving him a warning. You really think that you're a Castellan who loves his people like his own children?" Chapter 13:21. It's not a big deal. He said he forgave you guys. I have a mission here, and I don't know if you're interested. After stealing someone else's mission, he still said that he forgave them. It seemed like Wuji's level of scoundrel was even higher than Wang Yu's. Of course, Captain Don't Shoot was a sensible person. He knew who to mess with and who not to mess with. No matter how shameless the Chuanjin people were, they had to endure it. However, Captain Don't Shoot was quite interested in the latter part of Wuji's words. Although the Chuanjin people loved to cause destruction, they were not ordinary people. The mission that this group of people received was definitely not an ordinary mission. Mission? What mission? Captain Don't Shoot asked quickly. Wuji replied, "A mission to increase the West District's construction rate by 100 points. If you want it, come to the pub. We'll wait for you here for 10 minutes. If you're not here in 10 minutes, we'll find someone else." As a manager, Captain Don't Shoot lacked construction rate and prestige the most. Today, a mission was stolen by Wang Yu, and he was feeling depressed. At this time, when he heard that Wuji had a construction rate mission for him, Captain Don't Shoot immediately became spirited and hurriedly replied, Don't. I'm coming." As he spoke, Captain Don't Shoot took out a teleportation scroll. With a flash of light, Captain Don't Shoot appeared at the teleportation point closest to the pub. He was indeed a famous nouveau riche. He had to fly here. He really did not lack money. From this, it was not difficult to see Captain Don't Shoot's desire for the construction rate mission. How is it? Is he coming? In the pub, Wang Yu asked Wuji. Wuji snapped his fingers and said, "It's done. He'll be here soon." Really? Wang Yu was a little skeptical. It had only been a few seconds, and Captain Don't Shoot had been tricked. This kid was too good at tricking. "I'll be there in 10. 10. Bang. Wuji had just started counting when the door of the pub was suddenly pushed open. Captain Don't Shoot rushed in anxiously. "This way." Wuji waved at Captain Don't Shoot. Captain Don't Shoot turned his head and was shocked when he saw Wang Yu. Wuji hurriedly comforted him. "Don't be afraid. The mission is his." The world was big, but the mission was the most important. Captain Don't Shoot came to the front and came to Wang Yu. "Sit." Wuji didn't go and pointed to the seat between himself and Wang Yu. Captain Don't Shoot didn't walk over. Instead, he carefully sat opposite Wang Yu. Although he also knew that if Wang Yu wanted to deal with him, this distance was not enough to protect his life. However, staying away from Wang Yu was definitely a wise choice. Business had always been Wuji's specialty. Wang Yu simply narrowed her eyes and became the boss. Seeing Captain Don't Shoot. Wang Yu was wary of Wang Yu. Wuji spread his hands helplessly. "Seeing how scared you are, I won't talk nonsense with you. Let's get straight to the point. Do you want the mission to increase the construction rate?" "Set the price." Wang Yu glanced at Wuji and sent a private message. "You asked him for money?" "No. He wanted to give it to me." Wuji smiled. He wasn't surprised at all. At this time, Wang Yu also showed the mission. After seeing the mission content, Don't Shoot. He scratched his head. "This mission is a bit familiar." "Yes," Wang Yu said. "Didn't you do the dangerous wall mission this morning? This is the follow-up mission." Captain Don't Shoot was on the verge of collapsing. Meow. Stealing someone else's mission and selling it. This guy was really, "How is it, boss captain? This mission is just as I said, right?" Wuji asked with a smile. "No." The captain stopped firing and said, "Tell me, How much are you planning to sell this mission for? Actually, the quests in the game couldn't be said to be snatching. Only those who were capable could take over the quests. Big Bear and the others had been waiting for an entire morning, but they hadn't been able to figure out why. Wang Yu had reached the second stage in such a short amount of time. It was clear that this quest should have been done by someone else. The party leader might not be lacking in everything, but he was not lacking in money. He would definitely not be stingy with his money to buy a second stage quest. Captain Don't Shoot was very familiar with Chuanjin's style. Since Captain Don't Shoot had asked Wuji to name a price, he was already prepared to be ripped off. However, Wuji waved his hand and said, "I don't want money." "You don't need money." Captain Don't Shoot was shocked. He said with a trembling voice, "Boss Wuji, our Sword in the Sky is a new guild. Please don't scam us to death." Who didn't know that the people of Chuanjin would rather die than suffer a loss? How could they give someone a quest for free? If they didn't want money, wouldn't they want their lives? Captain Don't Shoot suddenly felt a sense of despair in his heart. What kind of logic is this? Wang Yu couldn't listen to it anymore. He was puzzled and said, "If we don't want money, why would we scam you? How much do you want? Do you want me to transfer you, RMB?" Captain Don't Shoot said with a bitter face. "You really don't want money." Wuji was speechless. "We have conditions." "I knew it." After hearing Wuji's words, Captain Don't Shoot was relieved. It was good that there were clear conditions. He was afraid that there were no conditions. Otherwise, he would definitely die a terrible death. After pondering for a while, Captain Don't Shoot said, "What conditions? Just say it." Wuji smiled and said, "This quest can't be transferred. It can only be shared. Therefore, the people of Chuanjin must participate." Just these conditions? After hearing Wuji's conditions, Captain Don't Shoot was a little surprised. This was considered AF * King condition? "Yes." "Captain, what if you're careless?" Wuji asked back. "Of course, no problem. Just do it." Captain Don't Shoot said generously. Captain Don't Shoot had seen the strength of the people of Chuanjin. With their help in this quest, it would definitely be a great combat force. Before Captain Don't Shoot could calm down, Wuji said that, "We are also a mercenary group. There's no reason to work for others for free. If we give you the quest for free, you can't let our people come for free too." "See, here it comes." Captain Don't Shoot knew that Wuji would have this trick up his sleeve. Captain Don't Shoot waved his hand and said generously, "No problem. As long as we can pass the quest, just name your price." "Then I'll name my price." Wuji smiled and said, "Our team just won the national championship. It's not an exaggeration to say that we're the strongest team. The appearance fee of 10,000 gold per person isn't too high. 10,000 gold, when converted to RMB, would be a few 100,000. However, as Wuji said, Chuanjin was the strongest team in the game. It was reasonable to spend this money to ask them to pass the quest. After all, their strength was there for all to see. Chapter 13:22. It's not high, not high. Don't Shoot replied hurriedly. It was the same price to find professional players. Moreover, Chuanjin had an expert like Wang Yu. It was definitely worth it. One last point, Wuji emphasized. "I must have absolute command for this mission." "That's not a problem." Don't Shoot was overjoyed. Wuji's commanding level was the same as Wang Yu's combat level. They were both abilities that could make people feel hopeless. Even if Wuji did not say it, Don't Shoot would give full command to Wuji. Naturally, he would not reject this condition. "Since there are no objections, you can go and gather people." After saying that, Wuji added, "We need a combo of clerics and shield bearers. The ratio of clerics and shield bearers must be 1:1. The more mages, the better. In addition, we need 100 assassins that can fly." Hearing Wuji's battle configuration, Don't Shoot felt troubled. It's easy to find a combo of clerics, and clerics, but assassins that can fly. You know, our guild doesn't have many players with cloaks. Cloaks were a rare item, and not every guild had one like the Quanjin sect. Even if the party leader didn't open fire, the number of players who could equip cloaks in the Heavenly Sword did not exceed 100. It would be difficult to find 100 assassins who could fly. Then how many can you find? Wuji pondered for a moment before asking. Don't Shoot thought for a while and said, "At most 50. Fortunately, assassins had the highest ratio of all the professions. The chances of producing experts were also the highest. Otherwise, they might not even be able to find 50. Wuji frowned. 50 is not a problem, but can you guarantee the quality? Of course. Don't Shoot said proudly. They're the top experts of our guild. All right. Wuji nodded and said, go and gather the people first. You must be fast. This mission has a time limit. Okay. Don't Shoot agreed and hurried out of the pub. Wang Yu was filled with emotion as he watched his captain leave without firing a shot. He was obviously looking for someone to help him, but Wuji, with a glib tongue, turned it into selling the mission. Captain, don't shoot this poor man. Not only did he contribute manpower and effort, he even contributed money. Was this the legendary saying of counting money after being sold? While Wang Yu was lamenting, Wuji had already started shouting in the group. Come to the pub. There's a mission. At this point, everyone from Quanjun was having a headache. They had nothing better to do and were attacking each other in the guild channel. When they saw Wuji's message, they immediately cast aside their previous animosity and said in unison, "What quest? We don't do normal missions. This is definitely not an ordinary quest." Wuji giggled as he shared the quest in the guild channel. The people from Quanjun were stunned when they saw the contents of the mission. Holy **T, killing 50,000 pirates in 24 hours. That's not normal at all. That's sick, all right? After a long while, everyone came back to their senses. Mingdu asked, "You didn't accept this, did you?" "Nonsense. Can't you see that it's the Castellan's quest? It's old cows," Wuji said angrily. Everyone clicked their tongues and sighed. TSK, TSK, TSK. I knew it. What kind of person accepts what kind of quest? Wuji shouted, "Cut the crap and come quickly. The quest has a time limit." As he said that, Wuji seemed to have thought of something and asked Chun Xiang, "Brother Chun, do you have any poison?" "Nonsense. You're doubting my professionalism. Tell me, what poison do you want?" Chun Xiang said in a pretentious tone. Wuji said, "Antivirus. Do you have any lethal poison?" Chun Xiang was furious. "Get lost. Can you speak properly?" Warlocks were famous for their inability to deal damage. Under normal circumstances, there are only two types of poisons. One was to reduce a small amount of health, and the other was to reduce one's attack and defense. The special one was to reduce one's speed. Antivirus was a lethal poison. Hee hee. Wuji laughed and said, "Do you have any weakening potions?" "That's more like it." Chun Xiang said, "How many do you want?" "Just bring as many as you have." Wuji did not stand on ceremony with Chun Xiang. Reimbursement? Weakening potions were special poisons and were not cheap to make. A rich guy like Chun Xiang would not use them casually. After all, warlocks did not use poison but money. Is 10,000 gold enough for the labor fee? Haha, what are you talking about? We're brothers. How can we talk about money? Wait for me, I'll be there soon. A big guild like Heavenly Sword had a lot of people. Even if they could not find 1,000 experts, they were still ready-made. Chuanjin's office was not far from the tavern, so the group arrived in no time. Not long after, thousands of people gathered on the Central Street. Central Street was under the control of Blood Alliance, and Blood Alliance was not on good terms with Heavenly Sword. If it wasn't for Chuanjin's people following them, these two guilds would have been at each other's throats. Under Wang Yu and Wuji's lead, 15 minutes later, the group arrived at the landing point outside of Port City. Looking at Port City, not far away, Don Shoot felt a little guilty. As the leader of a big guild, Don Shoot wasn't just for show. He still had the basic knowledge of strategy. Port City's defense was like an iron bucket. It was impossible for a mere 1,000 people to wipe out 50,000 pirates in this terrain. Thinking about this, Don Shoot asked in surprise, "Boss Wuji, we only have 1,000 people. Are you confident?" "Of course. Why else would I ask you to come here?" Wuji replied. Don Shoot said with some fear, "But there are 50,000 pirates. Isn't 1,000 of us a little too little?" "It's not too little. Too many people will make us look guilty. If there are too few people, I will feel guilty." At this moment, Wang Yu also came over and asked, "You aren't planning to let these people kill their way in, are you?" "Of course not." Wu Ji turned around and said to everyone, "Those who can fly, step forward." On the way here, Don Shoot had instructed them to absolutely obey Wu Ji's orders. Just as Wu Ji finished speaking, dozens of players walked out from the group. These players were all wearing top-quality equipment and had proud expressions. Whether or not they were experts didn't matter, but their equipment was definitely up to standard. Looking at these players, Wu Ji said, "Everyone rest here. Brother Chun, old you, and old Cow will enter the city and do some preparation work." "Preparation work?" Chun Xiang was confused. "How do we prepare?" Wu Ji took out a simple map from his pocket and pointed at it. "There's a water filter in the central square. That is their daily drinking water source. Brother Chun, throw all the weakening potions in." Chapter 1323. As the saying goes, it's better to be prepared. Wu Ji naturally planned for everything. Water was a necessity for pirates. With the war imminent, even if Xiang Chun's poison couldn't kill all the pirates, it could greatly weaken their strength. As for the watchtower, that was even more important. From the previous wave of probing, it wasn't hard to see that these pirates were elite monsters in the system mode. In terms of AI, it was very limited. All their actions were based on aggro, and the alarm bell in the watchtower was the most important signal for the pirates. As long as the alarm bell was destroyed, it would give everyone more time to prepare. Xiang Chun's strength was considered high among professional players, so Wu Ji wasn't worried. Moreover, there were usually no pirates in the harbor city square. Xiang Chun only needed to poison them. With a group of subordinates, it would be easy for them to retreat. But Bai Ming Yoyu was different. Since the alarm bell would ring at the slightest sign of trouble in the city, it could be seen that not only were there pirates on the watchtower, but the pirates' AI was definitely not low. After all, with the intelligence of ordinary monsters, as long as players didn't step into their aggro range, they would ignore the players and ring the alarm to alert the other pirates. It could be seen that the monsters on the watchtower not only had high AI, they could also be a boss. In fact, Bai Ming Yoyu wasn't weak. She had the strength to kill the boss, but Bai Ming Yoyu's main target was the bell. If the monsters noticed something was wrong, they would definitely ring the bell first. Controlling the opponent's movements was many times more difficult than killing the opponent. No matter how strong Bai Ming Yoyu was, she couldn't crush the boss. It was already extremely difficult to kill the opponent, and stopping the boss from ringing the bell was obviously difficult. Therefore, Wu Ji deliberately let Wang Yu follow. Even if Wang Yu couldn't suppress the boss, he could at least delay the boss and give Bai Ming Yoyu enough time. As for why he didn't just let Wang Yu steal the bell, it was very simple. Stealing locks was the specialty of the assassin profession. No matter how strong Wang Yu was, he was still a fighter. He couldn't break the rules of the game. Writing a book also had to follow the basic rules, right? Although the author liked to secretly increase the number of words, the book was still very strict. Just as Wu Ji expected, Chun Xiang successfully sneaked into Port City and poured all the weakening potions in his bag into the filter. Chun Xiang's enfeeblement potion was a rare potion that he had specially concocted. It could increase the duration of enfeeblement depending on the dosage. With 10,000 gold as the base, Chun Xiang naturally wouldn't be stingy. He poured 100 potions in one go. He estimated that for the next 100 minutes, the pirate's strength would be maintained at 70%. Each batch cost 50 gold coins. This time, Soaring Spring had truly invested heavily. At the same time, Wang Yu and Bai Ming Yoyu also flew up to the observation tower. The two of them looked down from the eaves of the observation deck. They could see everything in the observation deck at a glance. The space of the observation deck was only a dozen square meters. In the middle of the observation deck was a large bell, and beside the bell stood a slender young man. The man was wearing a skull cap with curly hair. Two goggles were tightly fastened over his eyes, making him look like a pilot. His nose was quite long, making him look a little strange. Moreover, this kid didn't have a standard flintlock like the other lookouts, but a slingshot. As expected of the boss guarding the observation deck, he was indeed different from the other coquettish cheese. Wang Yu cast detection and the boss attributes appeared in front of the two of them. Son of Lies, Wu Su, LV60, Gold, Epic Skills, Sledgehammer, Smoke Bullet, Galactic Flurry Talent, Bragging F, *CK. Seeing the boss appearance and attributes, Baiming Yoyu's jaw dropped. She exclaimed, F *CK. Longting Company is so blatant in copying. Aren't they afraid of being sued for infringement? Wang Yu smiled. How do you think Longting Company developed and became so strong? Although Wang Yu had just come into contact with online games, he had been fooling around with Wu Ji and his gang, so he was still aware of this little gossip about Longting Company. TSK. Baiming Yu sighed. Even if Longting Company isn't sued, the author will lose fans. Wang Yu stretched out his hand. What does that have to do with our quest? There are plenty of doujinshi authors out there. The boss's talent is bragging. Isn't that your nemesis? Baiming Yu said again. I'm not a cow. Wang Yu's answer made Baiming Yu speechless. As an assassin, Baiming Yu had learned stealth since she was young. Coupled with Earth Escape, it was not difficult to sneak into the observation deck. After joking around, Baiming Yu activated stealth and carefully jumped down from the roof. Pada! With a soft sound, Baiming Yu landed on the ground, and Wu Su's gaze was attracted. As a gold-level epic boss, Wu Su's senses were extremely sharp. He could feel any movement in the entire observation deck, not to mention the sound of someone as big as Baiming Yu landing on the ground. Wu Su was also very straightforward. When he heard someone landing nearby, he raised a slingshot in his left hand and pulled back his right hand, shooting a marble at the place where Baiming Yu had landed. This was the attack of a level 60 epic boss. Baiming Yu, a fragile assassin, naturally did not dare to take it head-on. She subconsciously used Earth Escape and burrowed into the ground. However, Baiming Yu immediately regretted it after burrowing into the ground. Meow. The place where Baiming Yu had landed was in front of the big clock, and behind her was the big clock. It was fine if Baiming Yu had dodged it, but this time she had hit the clock. Once the clock rang, the pirates would all come out, and all the arrangements that Wu Ji had made would probably be disrupted. Once the arrangements were disrupted, there was an 80% chance that the quest would fail. Actually, Baiming Yu also knew that with Wang Yu's good temper, if the quest failed, he would just lose the city. As long as he was with his friends, it was the same no matter where he went. However, Baiming Yu was a professional player and knew the significance of a main city better than anyone else. If she really messed up the quest because of her own mistake, Baiming Yu might not be able to lift her head in front of Wang Yu for the rest of her life. Seeing the marble fly past her head, Baiming Yu's eyes suddenly flashed with despair. Just when Baiming Yu thought that the big clock would be struck by the marble and the pirates would all come out, at this moment, Wang Yu's figure descended from the sky, and his large hand pressed down. Pa! With a crisp sound, the trajectory of the marble was deflected by Wang Yu's slap, and it landed on the ground, shooting a small hole in the floor. Wang Yu stood diagonally above Baiming Yu, as steady as Mount Tai. Wang Yu's image in Baiming Yu's heart became even taller, be it on a mental level or visual angle. Chapter 1324. Faced with Wu Su's questioning, Wang Yu did not hide anything and replied plainly, I am Castellan Yu Huicheng. At the same time, Wang Yu gestured to Baiming Yu to disregard him and to dismantle the clock first. When Wu Su heard Wang Yu's reply, he was obviously shocked and said, So you are Yu Huicheng's trusted Castellan. Before he could finish his sentence, Wu Su suddenly looked behind Wang Yu and said, Zoro, why are you here? As he spoke, Wu Su pulled the slingshot and shot a marble at the clock. As expected of the Son of Lies, as an artificial intelligence, Wu Su lied without batting an eyelid. If it was an ordinary person, he would have fallen for Wu Su's superb acting skills. Of course, it was obvious that Wang Yu was not an ordinary person. He did not know if the author would add more to Wang Yu's story, but would there be anyone else who did not know? Seeing that Wu Su was attacking the big bell behind him, Wang Yu switched his weapon to a long sword. He slowly raised his hand, and the long sword struck the marble. The edge of the sword tilted slightly. Dang! With the sound of metal colliding, the marble was once again diverted from its trajectory by Wang Yu and flew towards Wu Su along its original path. Wu Su hurriedly rolled backwards and dodged his own marble. Thud! The marble shot into the floor and pierced a hole through it. Hee hee! You are quite powerful. Seeing that Wang Yu had deflected his attack with a raise of his hand, Wu Su laughed and said, "There are very few in this world who can survive under my attack. Seeing that you have such skills at such a young age, I will give you another chance. Leave Harbor City immediately, or else I will not be courteous to you." Wang Yu didn't have the habit of listening to people talk back. If it was any other time, if Wu Su dared to talk back in front of Wang Yu, he would most likely be beaten to the ground by Wang Yu. However, the alarm bell was right behind Wang Yu, and Wu Su was a long-range class. If he did not stand in front of the alarm bell, Wang Yu did not have the confidence to stop Wu Su from attacking the alarm bell before Northern Sea Fish stole it. After all, no matter how powerful an expert was, it was inevitable that there would be some places where he could not predict. If he could not block one of the attacks, everything he had done before would be in vain. Moreover, who knew if there were any traps in the observation tower? Because of this, Wang Yu changed his usual style and quietly watched Wu Su finish bragging. Then he smiled and said, "Show me what you've got. You said it yourself." When Wu Su saw that Wang Yu did not take him seriously, he immediately became furious. He stretched out his hand, and a huge hammer appeared in his hand. The head of the hammer was as big as a desk. It was pitch black and full of pressure. When Wang Yu saw this, he was shocked. Meow, such a huge hammer must be hit a few times. He didn't expect this skinny and weak sniper to have such godly strength. "Thief, watch my hammer," Wu Su shouted. He lifted the hammer with one hand and swung it fiercely. The hammer flew straight towards the alarm bell. Seeing this scene, Wang Yu was once again amazed. As the saying goes, a heavy sword has no edge but great skill. To be able to use such a heavy hammer with one hand, as if it was nothing, this guy's strength was unfathomable. If he was hit by the hammer, he would probably be killed in a second. However, Wang Yu also knew that behind him was the signal to summon the pirates. No matter how unfathomable his opponent was, he could not avoid this hammer. Therefore, Wang Yu took a step forward and rushed to the front of the hammer. His long sword stuck to the hammer and forcefully led it away from its flight path. Pooh! However, just as Wang Yu's sword reached over, he heard a strange sound. Then, Wang Yu's long sword directly pierced into the hammer, all the way to the handle. F***CK. Fake hammer. With Wang Yu's ability, as soon as his sword came into contact with the iron hammer, he didn't feel the overwhelming pressure and immediately realized that he had been tricked. He immediately stretched out his left hand and slapped the iron hammer with his palm. Bang! The huge hammer was smashed by Wang Yu's palm. At the same time, a cloud of smoke scattered from the hammer. Wang Yu could not avoid it and was instantly drowned. The smoke powder Wuji drilled into Wang Yu's nostrils and eyes. Wang Yu blacked out and lost his vision. At the same time, he smelled a pungent smell. Achoo! Achoo! Following that, 2 sneezes came out. Damn it, the cloud of smoke that scattered from the hammer was actually pepper powder. What the hell, this shameless guy was a boss. He actually used such a dirty method. Ha ha ha, go to hell. Seeing that Wang Yu was hit, Wu Su laughed and aimed at Wang Yu's head with a slingshot. Meteor shot. Wu Su, this bragging king, always gave his skills exaggerated names. Meteor shot, as the name suggested, was a powerful attack skill that could shoot down stars. This guy was, after all, a level 60 gold epic boss. Even if the skill's power was reduced, he could still easily shoot a person. The marble carried flames and flew towards Wang Yu at an extremely fast speed. Just when Baiming Yu thought that Wang Yu would be killed by the boss's trick, who knew that Wang Yu's skills were still the same. Just as the marble was about to hit his head, Wang Yu raised his left hand to protect his forehead and used ferocious tiger strike with his palm. Pooh! The marble was caught by Wang Yu's ferocious tiger strike and was thrown backwards. He then jumped 3 steps back to offset the strong impact. At the same time, because he was retreating, Wang Yu's entire body was leaning on the clock. Wang Yu was tall, and had broad shoulders. After leaning on the clock, he blocked the clock and caused Wu Su to lose his target. At this moment, Wang Yu's eyes were blinded, and he could only rely on his senses to judge Wu Su's attack. However, Wang Yu's killing intent had a weakness. He could only sense it when the opponent was aiming at him. Obviously, Wu Su's first target was the clock and not Wang Yu. If Wu Su attacked the clock, the blind Wang Yu would be helpless. Now that Wang Yu was blocking the clock, if Wu Su wanted to attack the clock, he had to avoid Wang Yu. Since he wanted to avoid Wang Yu, he had to observe Wang Yu. In this way, Wang Yu was able to use his body advantage to make up for his disadvantage. As an epic-level boss, Wu Su's AI was rather high. Seeing that Wang Yu could still advance and retreat freely after being sprinkled with pepper powder, he instinctively thought that Wang Yu was not blinded. Hence, Wu Su jumped back, took out a large marble, and loaded it with a slingshot. He aimed at Wang Yu and shot it. Wang Yu casually swung his sword and split the marble. Pooh! The marble exploded and the entire observation tower was enveloped by a layer of grayish-white smoke, turning it into a fog. North Sea Yu panicked behind Wang Yu and said, "Old cow, he released a smoke grenade. What do we do now?" Wang Yu said calmly, "Do what you need to do, don't worry. With me around, you won't be able to come over. Don't talk big." Hearing Wang Yu's words, the belittled Wu Su shouted angrily, "Take this galactic dance." Chapter 1325. As he spoke, Wu Su loosened his grip on the slingshot. Instantly, rays of light poured out like the Milky Way, passing through the smoke and flying towards Wang Yu. Such an attack was not difficult for Wang Yu, who had flashed to dodge. However, there was a warning bell behind Wang Yu, so it was impossible for him to dodge. All Wang Yu could do now was to take it head-on. As the boss' ultimate skill, Galaxy Flurry not only had high attack power, but it could also sustain multiple attacks. If he took it head-on, even a shield warrior would find it difficult to die. However, faced with the overwhelming attack, Wang Yu closed his eyes and calmly raised his left hand forward. The gloves on his hands turned into a shield to protect his vitals, while the long sword in his right hand flew out. Dang, 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 dang. At the same time, ear-piercing sounds of collisions could be heard. Rays of sword light danced in the air. Wang Yu swung the long sword in his hand, chopped, flicked, and stabbed. All the marbles that the shield could not block fell to the ground. Thud, 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 thud. The marbles fell on the wooden floor, giving off dull thuds. Seeing that Wang Yu had blocked the boss' ultimate skill, Bai Ming Yu, who was standing beside Wang Yu, was so shocked that she froze on the spot. She even stopped what she was doing. Although Wu Su was a little shameless, Milky Way Rampage was definitely Wu Su's genuine big move, the kind that wasn't faked at all. Even Wang Yu in the North Sea could feel the machine gun-like power behind her. If it were an ordinary expert, they would not be able to block such a dense barrage of attacks. However, in a situation where Wang Yu was blinded and shrouded in smoke, not only did he block the entire skill, but he also did not miss a single point. He did not even have to move his feet. Well, what kind of monster was this? Did this guy's strength have an upper limit? Even though Bai Ming Yu and Wang Yu had been together for a long time and had some understanding of Wang Yu's strength, she was still shocked when she saw this scene. As for Wu Su, who was opposite Wang Yu, his eyeballs almost broke out of his protective goggles. His shocked expression was self-evident. Masaka, how is this possible? Wu Su cried out in surprise. He pulled the slingshot again and began to accumulate strength. At this time, Bai Ming Yu also came to her senses and completed the last step of unlocking. Plop! The large clock hanging on the roof fell to the ground. Bai Ming Yu was quick to grab the large clock and stuff it into her backpack. That's right, he stuffed it into his backpack. The system's settings were amazing. Forget a clock. Wu Ji had taken the Chuanjin station out of his pocket. In the eyes of ordinary people, an epic boss was an unreachable existence. However, to Wang Yu it was nothing. What kind of boss was it that Wang Yu was locked in battle with? Not to mention Dragon Emperor Dales. Even when Wang Yu was at level 30, he had killed the level 50 Dar Gold epic boss, Leon, whose abilities were higher than Wusu's. After all, although there was a difference of one word between gold and dark gold, their abilities were a whole level apart. Now that Wang Yu was at level 60, his equipment and skills were much stronger than when he was at level 30. Taking care of a gold epic boss of the same level was a piece of cake. The reason why Wang Yu did not make a move earlier was mainly because Wang Yu had the worry of the alarm clock. Now that Wang Yu's worry had been stolen by Baiming Yoyu, he naturally had nothing to worry about at this moment. Without waiting for Wusu to finish accumulating strength, Wang Yu activated his Qin Gong and shot towards Wusu. He stretched out his left hand and grabbed Wusu's wrist. Wusu was shocked. He hurriedly released his right hand, and a bullet was shot toward Wang Yu's face. Wang Yu lowered his head and suddenly stepped forward. His shoulder crashed into Wusu's chest, and his right palm suddenly lifted up and supported Wusu's chin. Although Wusu was a boss, he was still an agility profession. As a king of close combat, Wang Yu's strength attribute was not inferior to Wusu's. Moreover, Wang Yu's shifting beam with pillar had reached the perfect state of boxing regardless of strength or technique. Wusu was caught off guard and naturally could not block it. Aya! Wusu screamed and fell back after being supported by Wang Yu's palm. Wang Yu took the opportunity to switch his weapon to a dagger and stabbed Wusu's right wrist with a backhand. He then grabbed the dagger handle and twisted it. The kung fu that Wang Yu learned was not the flowery but impractical moves that the old men and old women in the square played. It was a real killing technique. As a killing technique, such a technique was extremely ruthless. It was a basic course for martial artists, especially those who were proficient in weaponry, to use weapons to dislocate other people's hands and feet. As a master of martial arts from various sects and schools, Wang Yu's technique was of course the best in the industry. Zia! After a terrifying sound of bones rubbing against each other, Wusu's right hand was directly cut off by Wang Yu's dagger. Ah! The hand that was cut off by Wang Yu was still holding onto a weapon. Wusu screamed and waved his arms to catch the falling hand. Wang Yu's eyes were quick, and he kicked the severed right hand to Baiming Yoyu's feet. Baiming Yoyu was smart. She picked up Wusu's right hand and flew out of the observation deck. Only Wang Yu and Wusu were left on the observation deck. Even with Wang Yu's strength, Wusu was still a punching bag when he was at his peak. Now, not only did he lose his weapon, he also lost an arm. A sniper without a weapon could not even use a normal attack. How could he fight close combat with Wang Yu? What a joke! Putting aside attributes, in terms of one-on-one skills, Rebirth had a lot of them. Even the Grandmaster of Combat, Dragon Emperor Dales, would have to step aside. Wusu, who was a long-range mini-boss, did not even have a hand. Of course, he did not have the slightest ability to fight back. Under Wang Yu's trampling, Wusu screamed as he was trampled into a white light by Wang Yu. Although Wusu was the boss in Wang Yu's mission, in terms of the game, Wusu was still a pirate who dominated an area. He was a real wild boss, so the drop rate was calculated as a normal boss. Voila! After Wusu died, a pile of sparkling items fell on the floor. Wang Yu walked forward and picked up Wusu's belongings. The first kill of a gold epic boss was still very rich. Wusu was a trash who embarrassed the boss, but the items he dropped were actually not bad. First was a skill book. This skill book had a silver cover. One look, and you could tell that it was not an ordinary item. On the cover, there were 4 big words: Galactic Dance. Galactic Dance, rare skill book. After using it, one can learn the archer's special skill, Galactic Dance. Usage requirement: Archer, Tisk TSK. Seeing the attributes of this skill book, Wang Yu sighed and then sent the skill book's attributes to the guild channel. P.S. I drank too much yesterday and fell asleep on the bed while writing. When I woke up in the middle of the night, I realized that I did not cover myself with a blanket. Then I caught a cold. My head hurts. Chapter 1326. As a player who had personally received an attack from Galaxy Flurry, Wang Yu knew better than anyone else how powerful this skill was. Usually, Wang Yu's longsword was enough to block the attacks of a team at the same time. She rarely used her shield to block. Only when she was surrounded by hundreds of people would she use her shield. Although the situation this time was a little special, Wu Su's Galaxy Flurry was enough to force Wang Yu to raise a shield to block it. This skill was very powerful. Archer's damage output skills were the hardest to drop in the game. As soon as the skill book was revealed, Yang Na and Exquisite Dream shouted in unison, "I want it!" Air! It was not easy to mingle with a group of wretched men in Chuanjin. Yang Na and Exquisite Dream had always been very close. Seeing that the other party wanted the skill book, they were stunned for a moment, then said in unison, "Forget it, I don't want it." After all, there was only one skill book. Exquisite Dream wasn't known for her damage output, and Yang Na's skills could make up for her lack of damage output. With their good relationship, they definitely wouldn't fight over a skill book. Look at him, then look at you. Seeing the two girls being so humble, Wang Yu looked down on Wuji and the others, then revealed another item. Phantom Ring, Gold, Attack, 31-51 mana, 20-40 focus, Critical Strike plus 10%, Critical Strike damage plus 10% Doppelganger. Active skill, creates 2 doppelgangers that last for 20 seconds. The doppelgangers have 33% of the original body's attack, takes 350% damage when attacked. Mana consumption, 80 cooldown, 50s Phantom Explosion. Active skill, explodes the doppelganger, deals 1000 true damage to the target. This skill is effective on all doppelganger skills of the user. Level requirement, 50 class requirement, Archer item description, a ring with magical powers. Accessories had always had the lowest drop rate in the game. High-grade accessories were always expensive. Having a high-grade ring, no matter what the stats were, was a symbol of status. As strong as Wang Yu was, he only had one presentable ring. Although it was a godly item, it was broken. Apart from its spatial properties, it was more symbolic than practical. This Phantom Ring was different. Not only was it a high-level gold equipment, but its attributes were also quite powerful. Due to the lack of strength, archers who added their points to agility did not have high basic attack power. Their damage output relied on attack speed and critical strike. The critical hit attribute was also very rare. Even weapons would not add too much to it. However, this ring had added a full 10% critical hit attribute. Just this attribute alone was enough to place this ring in the ranks of the best. As for Doppelganger Phantom and Phantom Explosion, they were both extremely practical skills. Doppelganger Phantom could greatly increase the user's continuous damage output, while Phantom Explosion could greatly increase the user's instantaneous damage output. This was especially true for Exquisite Dream, who relied on her doppelgangers to make a living. She was like a fish in water, instantly raising her strength to a whole new level. The most important thing was that this ring was beautiful. As for the Phantom Ring, the whole ring was transparent. When worn on the hand, the faintly discernible light was as if it was made of pure diamond. Any woman would not be able to resist such temptation. With such a ring, Exquisite Dream naturally wouldn't have any designs on the dance of the Milky Way. Without hesitation, Exquisite Dream bought Wang Yu's ring at a high price. Seeing this, Yang Na silently stored the Galaxy Flurry into her bag. Other than the skill book and this ring, the other equipment were rather ordinary in the eyes of Chuanjin's group. However, the last item that Wang Yu took out immediately attracted everyone's attention. Slingshot Class Change Proof, Class Change Tool. After using it, you will be able to accept the Archer's Hidden Class Slingshot Class Change quest. Class Change Proof. Looking at this proof, everyone could not help but gasp in surprise. Although there were many hidden class branches in the game, there were definitely not many. Especially in Rebirth, where there were hundreds of millions of players, the chances of encountering a hidden class branch was less than 1 in 100,000. Who would have thought that there would be such a thing in this desolate pirate's nest? However, Slingshot, this class's name was too low. What era was it now? Was a slingshot more powerful than a crossbow? Not to mention that Yang Na and Exquisite Dream had a hidden class and a hidden branch. Even if both of them were normal classes, they would definitely not be interested in this branch. Of course, Wang had seen Wu Su's skills before. Although a slingshot had a short range and low attack, its attack speed and flexibility was definitely incomparable to a crossbow. It was also not considered a trash class. If he sold it to Finger Heaven's group, he would be able to get a good price. Is it done? After Wang Yu finished showing off his equipment, Wu Ji then asked. Wang Yu was not a person who liked to show off. For him to suddenly send a screenshot of his equipment in the guild channel, there was only one possibility, and that was that he had just killed the boss. Since the boss was already dead, it meant that the task assigned to him was more or less completed. Yes, it's done. Wang Yu replied. All right, then all of you can come back, Wu Ji said calmly. Don't we need to coordinate from the inside and outside? Seeing that Wu Ji had sent them back, Soaring Spring asked in a puzzled manner. The sturdiest fortresses usually crumbled from within. Since everyone had already fought their way into the enemy's city, it was obvious that being inside the city was much more useful than being outside. Coordinate from the inside and outside. Wu Ji laughed and said, That doesn't exist. Why? Soaring Spring was puzzled. Wu Ji said calmly, Because they are not humans. Moreover, the combined strength of 50,000 people is terrifying. Coordinating from the inside and outside might seem like a brilliant idea, but it also depended on who the opponent was. If the opponent was a player with an independent personality, coordinating from the inside and outside would definitely be effective. As long as they hid in the crowd and gave out a few commands, they could possibly cause the formation of tens of thousands of people to fall apart. However, the opponents in Port City were a bunch of monsters without AI. With such a combination, their discipline and behavior would be highly concentrated. They would only listen to the system's commands, so no matter how the players coordinated from the inside and outside, they would not give a damn about you. Moreover, there were 50,000 people in the city and a number of bosses. Even if all 1,000 people were in the city, they would not be able to escape. What could 3 people do? Even if Wang Yu had the ability to see through the heavens and earth, under the siege of so many pirates, he would probably only be able to escape unscathed at most. The people from Xuanzhen were all key figures in this battle. Naturally, Wu Ji would not let them expend their energy needlessly. In terms of strategy, the people from Xuanzhen had always followed Wu Ji's lead. Since Wu Ji had asked Wang Yu and the others to retreat from Port City, he must have his reasons. Although the 3 of them had some doubts, they still followed the instructions and flew out of the city. After returning to the team, Wang Yu asked Wu Ji, What should we do next? Wu Ji turned his head and asked Soaring Spring, How long can the effects of your poison last? 100 minutes. Soaring Spring replied with a pained expression. That was not poison, but shining silver. Chapter 13:27. Rest. Captain Don't Shoot looked at the remaining time of the mission and asked in confusion. 3 hours have passed since we accepted the mission. Will he be able to complete the mission if we continue to rest? Captain Don't Shoot could not be blamed for doubting Wu Ji. After all, there were 50,000 pirates in the city. This was not a small number. Moreover, once the monsters were organized, they would become soldier monsters. They would have a strong offensive force, and their strength was at least several times stronger than a single monster. There were only 1,000 players outside the city. Under such circumstances, let alone 50,000 pirates, even 50,000 pigs wouldn't be able to catch all of them in a day. This was said by Chu Yunfei. Captain Don't Shoot had spent a lot of money to invite the people from Xuanzhen to help. No matter how rich they were, money did not grow on trees. Seeing Wu Ji's strategy, Captain Don't Shoot would naturally have second thoughts. Faced with Captain Don't Shoot's doubt, Wu Ji smiled faintly and said, As the saying goes, sharpening the knife will not delay the work of cutting firewood. There must be rules when doing things. Blindly doing things will be a waste of effort. But Captain Don't Shoot disapproved of Wu Ji's response. Everyone knew the general principle. I didn't spend so much money for you to feed me chicken soup. I might as well go look at WeChat moments and see WeChat merchants selling cosmetics instead of listening to your nonsense. At least they don't need money. No buts. Wu Ji said, 40 minutes is enough to kill these pirates. 40 minutes? Captain Don't Shoot was stunned on the spot. After a full 10 seconds, he said in surprise, "Boss Wuji, you're not treating me like Sunday, are you?" Meow. There were 50,000 pirate puppets in the city. They were all level 50 elite monsters, not 50,000 level 1 wild dogs. Even if the pirates did not occupy an advantageous terrain and did not have a formation, it would be extremely difficult for a mere 1,000 people to finish the battle in a few hours. Moreover, the enemy now had the advantage of time, place, and manpower. 40 minutes? If his ears were not damaged, then Wuji's brain must be damaged. Why? Want to make a bet? Seeing that the captain didn't believe him, Wuji asked with a smile. The captain, don't shoot, naturally didn't believe that Wuji could lead 1,000 people to finish the battle in 40 minutes. So he accepted the challenge and asked, "What do you want to bet? What do you have?" Wuji raised an eyebrow and asked. "Air." The team leader hesitated for a moment before saying in embarrassment, "Money." The city lord of Yuhuicheng was Wang Yu. The entirety of Yuhuicheng was under the jurisdiction of Chuanjin. In terms of equipment, Chuanjin was not necessarily worse than Captain Don't Shoot. Right now, Captain Don't Shoot's biggest advantage over Chuanjin was that they did not lack money. Yes. This is also a kind of advantage. Wuji nodded and said, "If you can finish the battle within 40 minutes, the commission will be doubled. If you can't finish the battle, we won't take a single cent. How about it?" This is what Boss Wuji said. Hearing Wuji's conditions, the captain was overjoyed. There were a total of 11 people in Chuanjin, and the commission was a total of 110,000 gold coins. It was not a small amount in the game. The captain didn't care about this small amount of money, but what kind of people were Chuanjin? To be able to let this group of people work for you for free, it was an incomparably glorious thing. It was definitely a great honor. After all, rich people cared about face. The captain immediately agreed to Wuji's bet. Seeing the captain's happy expression, Wuji smiled and said, "Captain, you won't deliberately let your men not work hard because of a little money, right?" The captain quickly waved his hand and said, "No, definitely not. If my brothers don't work hard, I'll just consider it as my loss." The captain was a sensible person. He knew that Wuji's bet was just an added bonus. In the end, the mission was the most important. Finishing the battle in 40 minutes was absolutely a fantasy for ordinary people. If Wuji could really do this, even if it was within an hour, the captain would be in awe. The captain naturally wouldn't offend such a ruthless person because of a little money. After all, spending 110,000 gold coins to watch an unprecedented performance was definitely worth it. Not to mention the captain, who was an outsider. Even the guys from Chuanjin who had been with Wuji for a long time were shocked when they heard about the bet between Wuji and the captain. "Old dog Wuji, are you serious?" Wuji was taking everyone's salary for the bet. Everyone would definitely let Wuji think carefully. Wuji calmly said, "Do you think I'll joke with others? But there are 50,000 pirates in Seaport City. Can these 1,000 crooked people do it? Maybe there are 1,000 Uncle Nyo." To place one's pride curled his lips. "No need." Hearing to place one's pride's words, Wang Yu lightly said, "10 is enough." It would have been better if Wang Yu didn't say this. Once he said this, the others were also shocked. "Did you see that?" Old Cow admitted that it would take 10 of him to kill all the pirates. "I'm afraid that these 1,000 trash can't even defeat Old Cow alone." "It's not afraid. It's definitely impossible," Wuji confidently said, "but it also depends on who's commanding. If it's me, I might be able to defeat Old Cow." "Then, are you sure you can do it?" everyone asked doubtfully. "Of course," Wuji confidently said. "I never do things that I'm not sure of." TSK, TSK, TSK. Everyone sighed. Old dog Wuji dares to say such untrue words. "I don't have any hope for our salary anymore." With more people, time seemed to pass quite quickly. An hour passed in the blink of an eye. Wuji looked at the time, snapped his fingers, and ordered, "People from the Quanjin sect and the Flying Assassins, gather together." Commanding a 1,000-man battle was not an easy task. Fortunately, there were only 50 assassins who could fly. Including Chuanjin's group, there were only 60 people. A team of less than 100 people was relatively easy to command. Soon, everyone gathered in front of Wuji. Wuji took out a map and marked the two sides of the valley. He then ordered, "This is the ambush point of the pirates. There are a total of 100 pirate lookouts hidden there. After you go invisible, go and kill these lookouts. There shouldn't be any problems, right?" The opponents were only 100 level 50 elite monsters. On average, everyone would get less than 2 of them. Those who had wings were the elites among the experts. This kind of mission was naturally not a problem for them. After receiving Wuji's instructions, everyone said in unison, "Absolutely no problem." "Good." Wuji was pleased. "In that case, I'll have to trouble everyone. Take off." Chapter 1328. Wings were extremely rare. It was a spectacular sight to see 50 to 60 experts with wings flying into the sky at the same time. The other players were dumbfounded. At that moment, Wuji ordered the remaining players, "Let's follow them." "Follow them? Don't shoot," was surprised. "Are we going to attack?" "Of course not," Wuji said calmly. "I don't have time to explain it to you. You'll understand later. Everyone, hurry up, we don't have much time." Finger Heaven was a big guild, so the quality of the players was quite high. The 1,000 people selected by Don't Shoot were all elite experts. They were all experts. Following Wuji's command, nearly 1,000 people were divided into 3 groups. They lined up according to the warrior, mage, priest, and priest formation. Then, they majestically charged towards the gates of Harbor City. At the same time, Wang Yu's group, as well as sword-pointing the Heavens group of assassins, had already flown to the top of the canyon. The opponents were only level 50 elite monsters. Everyone was an expert, so the ambush plan went smoothly. Before the pirates could react, the daggers of the assassins had already pierced into the backs of the pirate lookouts. Rays of white light rose up, and the pirates were all killed by the experts. Because the alarm bell had been destroyed, the pirates hiding in the city were not alarmed by the attack on the pirates' lookouts. The lookouts were actually the pirates' sentries. After all the lookouts were taken care of, the gate's opening was revealed to everyone. Wang Yu walked over and pulled it. Ka 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 ka. With a heavy sound, the huge gate slowly rose. At this moment, Wuji led his army into the canyon in front of the gate. Everyone was a veteran player, and most of them had participated in city battles before. They all knew that the most important part of a city battle was the gate. As long as they broke through the gate, the battle would be half a success. At this time, everyone saw that the gate was easily opened by the assault team. The players were overjoyed, thinking that the problem was solved. They cheered and rushed towards the city. But just as everyone rushed to the bottom of the gate, Wuji suddenly gave an order, "Stop advancing and wait for further orders." What? Hearing Wuji's order, everyone thought that they had heard wrongly. They found it hard to believe. Captain Don't Shoot was even more surprised. "Boss Wuji, you can't be telling us to attack, right?" "Meow. The city gate is already open. If I don't go in now, should I wait for the New Year's Eve dinner at the entrance?" "Can you understand Chinese?" Unexpectedly, Wuji frowned and said sternly, "I said everyone stay where you are. Those who pass through will die." As soon as Wuji finished speaking, a firewall rose up in front of the city gate. Mingdu raised his staff in one hand and condensed magic in the other as he appeared above the canyon. On the other side, Wang Yu and the others also stood at the edge of the canyon. Violence couldn't solve all problems, but it could solve the people who had problems. Originally, everyone was unwilling to obey Wuji's orders. However, when they saw Wang Yu's group on the valley, they obediently stood where they were. What a joke! After being in Yu Huicheng for so long, who wouldn't know what kind of people Chuanjin was? This group of people never went back on their words. If they said they would kill your entire family, they would kill your entire family. When they went crazy, they would even kill their own people. No one would doubt that this group of crazy people would first start a massacre before the pirates came out. After all, this group of people had always advocated not using violent methods. To them, a moment of soft-heartedness could very likely cause more casualties or even total annihilation. At this moment, they would definitely act cleanly. Seeing that everyone was obediently standing still and didn't dare to disobey, Wuji flew to the front of the group and ordered again. Everyone, stand in a staggered formation. Staggered formation was one of the basic formations in the game. As the name suggested, the players in the back would stand in the gap between the two players in the front row. This was a replacement formation. Once the players in the front row couldn't hold on any longer, the players in the back row could immediately step forward to replace the players in the front row. This formation had always been used in a situation where there was an absolute advantage in numbers, but the geographical environment was narrow. It could maximize the characteristics of strength in numbers. Don't shoot was naturally not useless. Seeing Wuji commanding everyone to stagger, he walked forward and asked in confusion, "Are you going to fight with the pirates in this canyon?" "Yes." Wuji nodded and said, "This is the battlefield of the decisive battle." But Don't Shoot looked at the canyon on both sides in surprise and said, "The terrain here is so low. It is the most vulnerable geographical location in Harbor City. Aren't we going to be hung up and beaten up by them if we stand here?" Wuji smiled slightly, and his gaze softened when he looked at Don't Shoot. From looking at an idiot to looking at an idiot. Indeed, the reason why Harbor City was easy to defend and difficult to attack was that the huge Harbor City was surrounded like an iron bucket by a natural city wall, and the only entrance was this canyon. Obviously, such a narrow terrain was extremely easy to defend. It could be said that one man could hold the pass against 10,000 enemies. As long as a team was arranged here, they could exert 10 times the advantage. This was common sense. To be able to see this, it could only mean that Don't Shoot was not a complete fool, but it did not mean that he was a person who understood tactics. Wuji pointed to the top of the canyon and asked Don't Shoot, "Look at who is above the canyon." Don't Shoot looked up and immediately saw Wang Yu's group and a group of assassins from his own guild. Ugh! Don't Shoot seemed to understand something. He was stunned for a while and said, "But such a terrain is easy to defend and difficult to attack. If we don't rush in quickly, are we waiting for them to defend?" "Easy to defend and difficult to attack." Wuji smiled and said, "You only know the term easy to defend and difficult to attack. It seems that you don't know the true meaning of this term." "True meaning?" Don't Shoot looked dumbfounded. "What else does this term mean?" Wuji pointed to the narrow valley again and said, "It's very simple. In the same geographical location, whoever is defending will have an easy time." After listening to Wuji's words, Don't Shoot, even if Don't Shoot had no strategic awareness, he reacted now. Wasn't it so? The canyon was just a terrain that would not help anyone. It would only be beneficial to those who knew how to use it. Since everyone attacked from the outside, the pirates were easy to defend and difficult to attack. Then why didn't everyone form a defensive formation and wait for the pirates to attack? One to attack and one to defend, one to move and one to stay still. Although it seemed to be in the same place, once the roles were reversed, it was a completely different concept. Chapter 1329. Realizing this, Don't Shoot looked at Wuji in awe, his eyes full of admiration. This was not just a matter of offense and defense. There were 50,000 pirates in Port City, which was 50 times more than the players outside the city. If Don't Shoot said to rush in and fight, they might be surrounded by the monsters and end up being wiped out. The canyon was different. The terrain was long and narrow, and only a dozen players could stand side by side. If the canyon was the battlefield and the pirates attacked the players at the entrance, the pirates' advantage in numbers would be greatly reduced because of the terrain's buffer. Once they fought, there would be less than 30 people who could come into contact with each other. Moreover, the pirates' long-range professions had been slaughtered, and 1/3 of the players were mages who specialized in damage. As long as the shield-bearers in the front row could withstand the monsters, the outcome of the battle in the canyon was self-evident. As for whether the shield-bearers could withstand the monsters, there was no doubt about it. Under normal circumstances, a priest could be paired with more than 3 shield-bearers. Now, Wuji was using a standard battle mage and priest formation, achieving a luxurious configuration of 1 shield-bearer and 1 priest. Moreover, Everyone stood in a staggered position so that the players in the back could replace the players in the front row at any time. Healing, endurance, and formation relay were two advantages that the pirates did not have, so they chose to fight in the canyon. Although it seemed like they were at a disadvantage in terms of terrain, they had actually switched positions with their opponents. No wonder Wuji dared to guarantee that he could end the battle in 40 minutes. Mages could kill monsters very quickly, and multiple mages could use AoE skills at the same time, which was several times more efficient than a single mage. In this kind of terrain, if the pirates were fast enough, it was not impossible to end the battle in 30 minutes. The reason why Wuji let Baiming Yuyu and Wang Yu steal the alarm bell was to buy time for everyone to get into formation. Otherwise, once the bell rang, the pirates would swarm in, and without formation, they would probably be scattered by the pirates as soon as they reached the door. Ring the bell. As soon as everyone was in formation, Wuji immediately sent a message to Baiming Yuyu. Baiming Yuyu put the big bell on the tree next to her, then held her dagger upside down and used the dagger handle to knock on the bell. Dang, dang, dang. A loud bell rang, and the pirates came out of their hiding places. It could be said that monsters without AI were the easiest to deal with. Anyone with the slightest bit of intelligence would hesitate for a moment when they saw that the attacking players weren't entering the city to attack. Instead, they were lingering at the city gates. However, the pirates didn't care about that at all. Seeing that the city gate had been breached, a group of players stood at the entrance to block it. Without saying a word, they immediately formed a formation and rushed forward. Looking at the pirates surging into the canyon, Wuji smiled faintly and ordered, "Shield warriors, form a shield formation. Sorcerers, prepare your AoE spells." Upon receiving Wuji's order, the shield warriors in the front row raised their shields in unison, crisscrossed each other, and smashed the ground with all their might. Duong! With a loud bang, the shield warriors smashed into the ground, causing dust to fly into the air. Boom! At the same time, the pirates collided heavily with the shield warriors. The pirates were all level 50 elite monsters, while the players' average level was around 53. Originally, with the bonus of equipment, the stats of players of the same level were much stronger than those of monsters of the same level. At this time, because of spring source poison, the pirates all had a weakened buff, so their stats were much lower than when they were at full strength. Shield warriors had the highest defense out of all the professions. With the bonus of many people, the shield warriors' high defense was naturally not something these poison pirates could break through. When the two sides collided, the players didn't move an inch, while the pirates couldn't stop in time because their companions at the front were forcefully blocked. They crashed into each other in a messy mess. At this time, Wuji ordered again, "Release." The sorcerers in the back row simultaneously cast the AoE spells they had prepared. All kinds of magical light and all kinds of sound effects intertwined. In an instant, chain lightning, blizzard, and sea of fire covered the front row of pirates, and the canyon was forcibly blocked by magic. The lethality of dozens of sorcerers casting spells at the same time was quite terrifying. Even if it couldn't be described as earth-shattering, it could be described as a pile of bones. As the spells fell, streaks of white light illuminated the area. Nearly 100 pirates in front of the shield warriors were killed in one wave. As for the shield warriors who had withstood the first wave of attacks, they had only lost half of their shield durability. The priests in the back row cast their healing spells, and the shield warriors began to block. At this time, the second wave of pirates came. Boom! The two sides collided, and another wave of magic fell. The pirates were once again killed in mass. The cycle repeated. The pirates were like moths to a flame, killed in waves. To the players, the pirates' reckless attacks were still very stressful. If not for spring source poison that gave the pirates a weakened buff, the players' formation would have been broken. Even so, after a few waves of attacks, the shield warriors in the front row were on the verge of exhaustion, and all the skills of the sorcerers in the back were on cooldown. Switch! Wuji saw this and gave another order. Whether it was the shield warriors, sorcerers, or priests, the players in the back row all stepped forward and took over the positions of the players in front. The players who were switched off retreated from the two sides to recover. The pirates didn't have the players' tactics, so they could only rely on numbers to attack. 1-0-0, 2-0-0, 3-0-0, relying on the terrain advantage and the players' solid defense. More and more pirates died. Looking at the number of pirates on the quest panel slowly decreasing, Don't Shoot's back teeth were exposed. From the start of the battle until now, only 5 minutes had passed, and the pirates had suffered more than 10,000 casualties. With the current killing speed, ending the battle in 40 minutes was already a conservative estimate. At this time, Don't Shoot was completely convinced by Wuji, and he was completely in awe of Wuji. In the past, when Xuanzhen was on the same side as Yu Huicheng, Don't Shoot had a lot of ideas. After all, Finger the Heavens was defeated by Wang Yu alone, so Don't Shoot was very unconvinced by the others in Xuanzhen. He thought that without Wang Yu, Xuanzhen was a bunch of trash. But looking at it now, Don't Shoot finally understood why Blood Red War Flag, as the leader of a major guild, would suck up to Wuji. Meow, this kid was definitely a tactical genius. Of course, the happiest person was Wang Yu. After all, this was Wang Yu's mission, and Don't Shoot and the others were just part of it. Moonwalker. Chapter 1330. Not good. Use invincibility. Seeing the figure that suddenly jumped out, Wuji was shocked. He casually put a holy shield on the shield warrior at the foot of the shadow. At the same time, the other priests also took action and covered the front row of shield warriors with holy shield. Bang! Along with a muffled sound, the shield warrior was kicked solidly by the black shadow, causing a horrifying sound to ring out. Although the shield warrior did not receive any damage due to the radiant holy shield and the judgment of the shield formation, the shield warrior still took a few steps back from the kick. The front row's formation was almost broken. Even though it didn't kill the player in one move, the figure didn't stop at all. It kicked hard with both legs, using the momentum to flip backward and land steadily in front of the player. At this time, everyone also saw the appearance of the person. This guy was quite handsome. He had a head of blonde hair, a cigarette in his mouth, and a cynical expression on his face. What was most incompatible with the background of the sword and magic game was that this guy was actually wearing a black suit. It was really a bit out of character. Wuji took the opportunity to use Detect, and the attributes of the person appeared in front of Wuji. Blackfoot and Naruto, LV60, Dark Gold Boss, Epic, HP, 500000 MP, 100000 skills, Moonlight Stride, Devil's Wind Kick Talent, Cooking Background Introduction, one of the most famous pirates on the Grand Line. His kicking skills are unparalleled in the world. At the same time, he is a good cook, deeply loved by girls. Damn! Seeing the information of Blackfoot Naruto, all the players were stunned. Of course, Wuji was surprised by the background of this boss, and the others were shocked by the boss's identity as a Dark Gold Epic. Dark Gold Epic Boss Naruto. This was the top boss level besides God and Legend. Although the map of Rebirth was very large, it was not very generous in terms of wild bosses. Usually, people would play in wild maps and would not encounter a boss for 10 days or half a month, let alone a Dark Gold boss. If they wanted to fight a boss, they could only go to the dungeon. Dark Gold Elite bosses were already the rarest of the rarest. As for epic bosses, they were legendary existences that could only be found by chance. After all, epic bosses all had extremely high AI, especially humanoid bosses. Normal players wouldn't interact with them, but it was impossible to tell them apart from players just by looking at their behavior. Generally speaking, the higher the level of a boss, the higher the level of the item it would drop. There was no guarantee that a random boss would drop a divine weapon. As the saying goes, people die for wealth. Doing a quest and encountering an epic rank boss with a chance to obtain a godly weapon. Everyone's excitement was self-evident. The team leader, Don't Shoot, was so happy that he couldn't close his mouth. He thought that he had earned a lot from this mission. However, it was easy for people to neglect many important things when they were overly excited, such as the strength of their opponents. Although Naruto was only a level 60 epic boss, An epic boss with a prefix like Naruto would not be a pushover. Without waiting for the players to recover, Naruto jumped up and kicked them again. The players had always been very enthusiastic when it came to fighting bosses. Even if they knew that the items that dropped might not belong to them, they still felt sorry for themselves when they saw the boss. Therefore, even without Wuji's command, the mages in the back row raised their staffs in unison, and all kinds of magic spells were thrown at the boss. Facing the flying magic spells, Naruto's eyes narrowed, and he shouted, "Eagle stamp!" Then, his body suddenly fell to the ground. Then, Naruto leaned back with his back against the ground and used slide tackle with both arms. Whoosh! The shield warriors in the front row only saw a black shadow flash in front of them, and Naruto slid through the gap between the players in the front row and into the players' formation. Fortunately, Wuji made everyone stand in a staggered formation. When Naruto slid to the second row, he was blocked by the second row of shield warriors. The shield warriors in the second row didn't say anything, and they raised their shields and smashed down. Whirlwind reverse. Naruto roared, twisted his waist, and pressed his hands on the ground. His whole body spun in a circle, and he shot up into the sky. Bang, 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 bang. At the same time, Naruto swung his feet, and like a windmill, he kicked the shields that were smashing towards him. Naruto was a level 60 epic boss, and his attack and judgment were unquestionable. The shield warriors in the second row had to replace the first row, so in order to ensure that their skills were on cooldown, they didn't use their shield formation, and the priest didn't give them invincibility. Kaku's and Naruto's kick knocked away everyone's shields. Crash! Kaku's and Naruto's powerful judgment knocked everyone back to the ground, and the second row of shield bearers scattered. Everyone knew that epic bosses had the highest AI, and Naruto's AI was definitely not lower than that of the players. The shield warriors were all thick-skinned, and with the priest at the back, even the boss couldn't kill them instantly. Knowing that he wouldn't be able to kill them in a short time, Naruto obviously wouldn't waste his time here. After kicking away the players that surrounded him, Naruto jumped above the shield warriors. Facing such a vicious character, if they had a shield in their hands, they would definitely subconsciously protect their heads first. The players of Finger Heaven didn't go through any teamwork training to attack Port City, so their discipline wasn't high, and they were no different from ordinary people. Seeing Kaku's and Naruto fly up, everyone raised their shields. Discipline was the most important thing in a team, and sometimes it wasn't a good thing for everyone to be smart. It didn't matter if they raised their shields, but Naruto in the air was happy. Originally, this kid just wanted to step on everyone's heads to cut the back row, but now the shield warriors in the front row directly paved a special passage for him to the back row. Selling out his teammates in such a refreshing way also opened Wuji's eyes. The tanks in the front row couldn't be counted on, and the mages in the back row could only pray for their luck. As a pugilist, Naruto's agility was extremely fast. Without the control of a tank and taunt, it was impossible for anyone to accurately aim their attacks at Naruto. In the blink of an eye, Naruto had passed through the shield warrior phalanx. Seeing Blackfoot Sanji running in front of the mages in the back row, Wuji yelled loudly, "What are you doing? If you can't aim properly, just hit your head with the magic in your hand." When the mages heard Wuji's roar, they shuddered and hurriedly cast their spells on their own heads. For a time, the light of magic bloomed in the mages' phalanx, and everyone looked like they were committing suicide, which was extremely spectacular. Chapter 1331. If it weren't for Wuji's shout just now, Naruto would have killed at least a group of mages with his foot. With the AI of an epic boss, it was not difficult to see Wuji's role in the team. Naruto also knew the role of a good commander in a large-scale battle, so the corner of Naruto's mouth curled up slightly. He turned around and rushed toward Wuji with his shield. F*CKU. Wuji had seen Naruto's insane skills with his own eyes just now. Seeing that Naruto had locked onto him, he immediately spread his wings and flew straight up to the top of the canyon. At this time, Naruto had also rushed to the position where Wuji was just standing. Clearly, Hyuga Naruto did not know how to fly. Seeing Wuji fly, Hyuga Naruto smiled faintly and kicked the mountain wall. Crack! With a harsh sound, a deep pit was kicked out of the mountain wall by Naruto. Then, Naruto used the pit as a step and flew up a few meters, kicking from the bottom up toward Wuji. In terms of instantaneous explosive speed, the speed of flying with wings was far slower than the speed of jumping. Naruto instantly caught up with Wuji. Wuji was only a cloth armor class. Although he had a lot of health, his defense was incomparable to a shield warrior. There was no doubt that he would die if he was kicked. Just as Wuji was about to be kicked to death by Nanjiao Naruto, a huge foot suddenly descended from the sky. Before Wuji could be kicked, the foot landed on Nanjiao Naruto's foot. Seeing the big foot, Wuji was overjoyed and exclaimed, "Old cow." That's right. Only Wang Yu had the ability to stand up and save Wuji. Bang! Before Wuji finished speaking, the 2 feet collided with each other, making a creepy sound. Naruto's foot was kicked back. At the same time, Wang Yu used the powerful impact of Naruto's foot to grab Wuji's waist and jumped up, carrying Wuji up the mountain wall. F***CK. Whether it was on a mountain wall or in the canyon, the players who saw this scene all screamed. They had fought with Naruto just now. As soon as he appeared, he almost messed up their formation. Such a terrifying boss was actually kicked away by Wang Yu. F***CK. Which one of these two is the real boss here? Seeing Wang Yu's stunning kick, Captain Don't Shoot secretly wiped off his cold sweat. He was glad that he had admitted defeat to Wang Yu back then. Although Naruto was a boss, his target was a cloth armor class, so he didn't use any skills. Wang Yu's Thunder Stomp was a powerful skill with high priority. It had a powerful knockback effect, and the attack from the sky had an innate advantage. One used a skill, while the other didn't, so it was reasonable for Naruto to be kicked away. Even so, Wang Yu's kick didn't have much of an advantage. If it weren't for Wang Yu landing on top, who knew who would fall? Of course, apart from the surprise players, there were also some who had their own reasons. For example, when Exquisite Dream and Yang Na saw Wang Yu jump up the mountain wall with Wuji in his arms, their eyes lit up and they whispered to each other with a wretched smile on their faces. Naruto was kicked back by Wang Yu, but he wasn't convinced. After landing, he pressed his 4 limbs on the ground and jumped high again. He stepped on a mountain wall and rushed up. As soon as Wang Yu landed, Naruto jumped up the mountain and kicked Wang Yu's back. Wang Yu pushed Wuji to the side, turned around, and raised his hands to create a shield in front of him. Poof! The shield shattered. Wang Yu jumped back, offset the force of Naruto's kick, and landed not far away from Naruto. Huh, interesting. Naruto saw that Wang Yu didn't die after taking his kick, and instead came out unscathed. He was surprised and then swung his right leg again. From a distance, Wang Yu could feel the powerful force of Naruto's leg. In the face of such a powerful attack, Wang Yu suddenly lowered his body, and Naruto's leg brushed past the back of Wang Yu's head. There's an old saying in China's Kung Fu, the feet don't cross the waist. It means that the big moves look cool, but in fact, they're full of flaws. As the saying goes, the layman knows the ropes. Naruto's leg design is very gorgeous, and in the eyes of the designer, it is unparalleled in the world, but in front of a Kung Fu master like Wang Yu, such leg technique is full of flaws. Without waiting for Naruto to stop, Wang Yu suddenly moved a step forward, raised his right hand, and smashed his elbow between Naruto's legs. Bang! With a muffled sound, Naruto was smashed back a few steps. The surrounding people felt a chill in their crotch, and they all curled their lips. They thought that the legendary master was very powerful, but they didn't expect him to be so dirty. Players don't feel pain, and being smashed by Wang Yu would at most be a little traumatized, but there won't be much physical damage. However, Naruto was a real rebirth, native, and all the physiological structures were there. Obviously, Naruto was a little angry after being hit by Wang Yu. His face darkened, and then, with a whoosh, a flame rose under Naruto's feet, wrapping his legs. How can this be, damn? Taste my demon wind kick. With a roar, Naruto raised his leg and kicked again. This time, Naruto should be using his real strength. Wang Yu felt a surging heat wave from far away. In a battle of this level, ordinary players certainly couldn't intervene, so they scattered to avoid the fight between gods. The boss had already used his ultimate skill, so Wang Yu naturally couldn't hold back. He immediately crossed his arms and held his breath. A golden light rose into the sky, and Wang Yu activated the dragon, subduing palm mode. At this moment, Naruto's right leg with crimson flames had already kicked to the side of Wang Yu. Wang Yu raised his left arm and blocked in front of his body. At the same time, a golden dragon shield appeared on Wang Yu's arm. A line of golden words lit up above Wang Yu's head. Dragon subduing essence. Boom! An arm and a leg collided heavily. The enhanced version of Chi Wave Shield on Wang Yu's arm was kicked to pieces by Naruto, and Naruto also felt a numbness in his leg. One was the ultimate skill of an epic boss, Demon Wind Kick, and the other was the ultimate martial arts skill, Dragon Subduing Palm. The collision of the two powerful skills was undoubtedly terrifying. A circle of shock waves spread out, and the trees around Wang Yu and Naruto were all blown away. Chapter 1332. In Rebirth, the most direct way to judge a player's damage was through their attack effects. Unlike the dazzling elemental effects in other online games, the player's attacks in Rebirth could cause damage to the environment. For example, a magician's ice magic could freeze water, a warrior's crashing earth slash could split the ground, and so on. A Grandmaster of Combat's damage could also cause damage to the environment. However, a Grandmaster of Combat skills were mainly based on their fists and feet, and their damage was the lowest among all the classes. At most, they could smash rocks with one punch, so they were not as good as other classes. However, Wang Yu and Naruto's fists only collided for a moment, and the aura they emitted was enough to break the trees around them. The damage was far beyond the player's imagination. Naruto was an epic boss, so it was reasonable that his damage was high. Wang Yu was a player just like everyone else, so it was unbelievable that he had such high attack priority. After blocking Naruto's attack, Wang Yu's left hand turned into a claw and grabbed onto Naruto's ankle. At the same time, he stepped forward and pushed his right palm upwards, using the Grandmaster of Combat's shoulder throw. At this time, a line of ancient words lit up above Wang Yu's head, Ultimacy of Taming Dragon. Hidden Dragon, Don't Use a Shoulder Throw was a Grandmaster of Combat's grab skill, and it had high priority. With the buff of Dragon Taming Palm, it had evolved into an ultimate skill, and its priority was many times higher than the original skill. After being grabbed and pushed by Wang Yu, Naruto felt the world spin around him, and his whole body was thrown away. As a pugilist boss, Naruto Kakuzu had a lot of privileges. For example, a high sense of balance and fast quick recover were the main characteristics of pugilist bosses. In midair, Naruto's body twisted at a strange angle and landed on the ground. Without waiting for Naruto to regain his balance, Wang Yu had already flown over and launched a shadow chain kick. Ultimacy of Taming Dragon, Dragon Tail Whip. Wang Yu's shadowy chain kick was personally taught by Hermit. Whether in terms of power or level, it was a level higher than the shadowy chain kick of a normal Grandmaster of Combat. It was a true ultimate skill. After the ultimate skill was strengthened by the Dragon Subduing Palm, it would trigger the ultimate profoundness of the Dragon Subduing Palm. In terms of power, even Dragon Emperor Dales had to be cautious. It's really hard to imagine if Wang Yu had activated the internal chi surging state before this. To what extent would this instant shadow chain kick have been strengthened to? At the very least, as the author, I wouldn't be able to think of a name that could match such a high-end skill. Everyone, feel free to speak up. This old man will listen to those that are good. Although Naruto was strong, it was only a LV60 epic boss. It was powerless against Wang Yu's devastating kick. Bang, bang, bang. Dash 124451 dash 221 124 dash 45213 dash 100. Wang Yu's 3 consecutive kicks landed on Kakuzu and Naruto's body, sending Kakuzu and Naruto flying. Naruto had a total of 5 million snow lotuses. Wang Yu's kick had dealt 3 damage points, and Naruto's health bar had dropped by 1/5. One kick for a million? The onlookers saw Wang Yu's wave of damage and were instantly dumbfounded. Some people even began to wonder if they were dreaming. The rest of the players wondered if they were playing the same game as Wang Yu. The awakened skill that players obtained after awakening to level 50 was the skill with the highest damage output. Even mages and assassins, who specialized in instant damage, could only deal 100,000 damage in a single wave, let alone a pugilist, whose damage output was not particularly outstanding. However, Wang Yu's kick dealt nearly 800,000 damage, far exceeding this limit. Was he really a Grandmaster of Combat? Of course, this was not the final damage of Wang Yu's skill. After Naruto was sent flying, Wang Yu flew up, turned into a ray of light, and landed a heavy kick on Naruto's head. Boom! -7958888. Another huge damage floated up, and the health bar above Naruto's head dropped by 1/5 again. Fatal blow. The reason why Shadow Chain Kick was also known as End of Generations Kick was not only that this skill had 3 high damage, but also a fatal blow. The damage of a fatal blow was the sum of the previous 3 kicks. In this way, no matter which class was hit by the Grandmaster of Combat's line-ending kick, there were very few who could survive. The instant kill rate could be said to be the highest among all the classes. After all, at this stage of the game, even the archer with the lowest HP had 60,000 HP. The assassin's explosive advantage could be used to instantly kill fewer and fewer classes, and the Grandmaster of Combat's flickering Shadow Chain Kick's damage would increase as their level increased. Pada! Wang Yu did a backflip and landed steadily from the air. Naruto, on the other hand, lost his balance after being kicked by Wang Yu and fell to the ground with a thud. Pa! Immediately after, Wang Yu snapped his fingers. Puff! Naruto spat out a mouthful of blood. -1591157 Another damage floated up above Naruto's head, and his health dropped below 2/5. Profound break. Shadow Chain Kick will add a layer of hidden force when attacking the target. Activating Shadow Chain Kick again will cause a burst of hidden force damage. Killing the target will reduce the cooldown time by 20 seconds. What the F***CK? Seeing this scene, not only the players from Skyscraper, but also the players from Chuanjin who had seen Wang Yu's strength were completely shocked. This was a F***King Dark Gold epic boss, an existence with a name and title in the game's background story. Its strength was recorded in the history books, and it was also in existence with high AI in the game's settings. It was impossible to kill an epic boss without at least 100 players. Who would have thought that such a dark gold-ranked epic boss would be kicked to the brink of death by a Grandmaster of Combat player in front of so many people today? If this had not happened in front of their eyes, they would never have believed that such a thing really happened. Wuji, who was calm even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him, saw the damage of Wang Yu's Shadow Chain Kick, and he could not help but exclaim, "What the F***CK? Is this boss fake? It can't be right. He was quite ruthless when he hit me just now." No, the others all echoed, "The boss is definitely not fake. I can only say that old cow is getting more and more powerful." Sigh. You still have a long way to go. Looking at Naruto, who was kicked to the ground by him, Wang Yu sighed and shook his head slightly. Grandmaster of Combat bosses were not common. Wang Yu was excited to see Naruto, but he thought that Naruto's strength was very high. He did not expect it to be so weak. Chapter 1333. It couldn't be helped. Dragon Emperor Dales couldn't beat Wang Yu in terms of punches and kicks. No matter how powerful Naruto's fighting level was, could he be stronger than the top boss in the game? The level of the game designer was so high. No matter how the Grandmaster of Combat class was set, the level couldn't enter Wang Yu's eyes. He could only make up for it with attributes. After Wang Yu activated the Dragon Subduing Palm state, his attributes were not much weaker than Naruto of the same level. It was reasonable to press Naruto to the ground. Looking at the half-dead Naruto again, Wang Yu put his hands together, aimed at Naruto's head. and was about to give him the final blow. However, at this moment, Wang Yu suddenly felt a strong killing intent coming from his side. Immediately afterward, a deep voice exploded in Wang Yu's ears. Yamaru. Wang Yu was slightly surprised. He turned his head and saw a guy carrying a long sword rushing from the side at extremely fast speed. The guy was dressed in green and had green hair. It could be said that he had quite a personality. Wang Yu's mind moved, and the information of the strange man in green appeared in front of Wang Yu. Berserker Sword, Zoro, LV65, Dark Old Boss, Epic, HP, 1000000 MP, 1000000 Skills, Tornado, 3000 Worlds, Shura Body Talent. Swordsmanship Background Introduction. One of the strongest swordsmen of the Grand Line, extremely powerful. Zoro saw that Wang Yu gave up attacking Naruto and looked at him. He immediately raised his hand, and the black samurai sword in his hand flew out. Whoosh! With a sound, the samurai sword turned into a black light and flew towards Wang Yu. Wang Yu gently took a step back and avoided the edge. Pooh! The katana was accurately inserted between Wang Yu and Kikuchi Naruto. At this time, Zoro also rushed to Kikuchi Naruto's side and pulled out the katana with one hand, blocking in front of Wang Yu. Although Naruto was saved by Zoro, he seemed to be in a bad mood. He crawled up and asked with dissatisfaction, "Why are you only here now? I was almost beaten to death." "I'm lost," Zoro said awkwardly. Hey. Naruto's face was full of black lines. "You are also a master. How can something as trivial as getting lost be a reason?" "You don't understand," Zoro said solemnly. "Getting lost is very scary." "That's right. He's right." When Wang Yu heard this, he nodded his head in agreement. The two of them looked at each other, and a look of appreciation appeared on their faces. "That's enough," Naruto shouted anxiously. "He is an enemy. What kind of expression is that?" "Ugh." Seeing that Naruto was angry, Zoro was shocked and quickly straightened his posture. He raised his sword and pointed it at Wang Yu. "Sorry, you must die today." As he said this, the katana flashed, and Zoro slashed at Wang Yu. Wang Yu's dragon subduing palm state had not been removed, and his attributes were quite heaven-defying. Facing Zoro's attack, Wang Yu did not dodge. His palms aimed at the katana, slashing down. Pa! The katana was caught in Wang Yu's hand. Second slash, Zoro's katana was caught, and he immediately shouted. His left hand flicked upwards, and the other black katana swung upwards at Wang Yu. When Wang Yu saw this, he lifted his right leg diagonally upwards and knocked Zoro's left wrist. His left wrist was tilted, and the black katana was knocked away by Wang Yu's kick. After knocking away Zoro's katana, the golden light on Wang Yu's body dissipated, and the dragon's subduing palm state was removed. Feeling that Wang Yu's hand did not have enough strength, Zoro twisted his katana, and Wang Yu had no choice but to let go, allowing Zoro to pull back his weapon. Then Zoro slashed again. Naruto saw that Wang Yu's momentum suddenly dropped, and without saying anything, he kicked at Wang Yu's head. F***CK. Shameless. Since ancient times, it had always been players ganging up on bosses. There was no reason for bosses ganging up on players. Seeing Naruto join the battle, everyone couldn't help but shout. Wang Yu did not say a word. He reached out and placed his hand on Naruto's ankle, and with a pull, Naruto's body slammed into Zoro. Helpless, Zoro could only retract his katana and catch Naruto with both hands. After the two looked at each other, they simultaneously attacked Wang Yu from the left and right. Wang Yu bent his knees in a half squat, lowered his center of gravity, and blocked the two bosses with a left hook and right push. Without the dragon's subduing palm state, Wang Yu's attributes dropped by a large amount. He could easily deal with one of the bosses, but dealing with two would be a bit difficult. After all, these two bosses were above Wang Yu in both speed and strength. If it wasn't for Wang Yu's skills being far superior to the two bosses, he probably wouldn't even last one round and would be killed by the two bosses. Now, Wang Yu could only rely on his skills of borrowing strength to deal with the two bosses. Of course, Chuanjin's group wasn't just for show. Just as Wang Yu and the two bosses were busy fighting, Chuanjin's group surrounded them from the side. Wu Ji gestured to Yin Lao Air, and Yin Lao Air lowered his head and used charge to ram into Wang Yu's group of three. Seeing Yin Lao Air's sudden arrival, the three people who were in a stalemate jumped back as if they had discussed it beforehand, immediately pulling away. At this time, Haruka's staff hit the ground, and a black circle appeared under Naruto and Zoro's feet. Boom! Without waiting for the two bosses to dodge, a dark barrier rose up and trapped the two bosses inside. Mingdu's staff aimed at the two bosses inside the dark barrier and was about to cast a spell, but before Mingdu's skill finished, Zoro suddenly moved. Tranquiliacosm. Following Zoro's roar, the long sword in his hand swung and directly split Haruka's barrier. Whirlwind 100 Rupture Kick. With the barrier broken, Naruto's frozen state was also lifted. He leaped and flew directly above Haruka, and his legs turned into a sky full of leg shadows as he kicked at Haruka. Seeing that Haruka was about to be kicked to death by Naruto, Wang Yu's figure flashed and appeared in front of Haruka. He suddenly raised his arms and slapped his palms towards Naruto. Toppling the mountains. The power of a one-time use skill like toppling the mountains was extremely great, even more so than the subduing dragon palm. Boom! A row of huge waves collided with Naruto's leg shadows. Naruto was sent flying by Wang Yu's palm and landed beside Yang Na a few meters away. Yang Na was also a martial artist, so her reaction speed was naturally much faster than ordinary people. Seeing Naruto land beside her, Yang Na didn't say anything and took a step back. She raised her hand and fired an accurate shot. Whoosh! The crossbow arrow shot towards Naruto with a white light. Naruto's movements were also very fast. He only saw his head slightly tilt, dodging Yang Na's shot. Then he turned around angrily and opened his mouth to curse. Bastard, you dare to sneak attack me. Chapter 1334. Yang Na was stunned when she heard Naruto's words. It was natural for women to like to be called beautiful by others. Besides, Kikuchi Naruto was handsome. Even the most manly girl would be happy to be praised like this. Not to mention Yang Na, who loved beautiful girls so much. Her face instantly turned red. Exquisite Dream, who was not far from Yang Na, saw that Yang Na was stunned. She thought that Yang Na was being bullied by Naruto. Without saying a word, she shot an arrow at him. Naruto kicked the arrow away and smiled at Yang Na. Forgive my rudeness, beautiful lady. I'm going to deal with some trash that is disturbing our time. Then, Naruto turned his head and lifted his foot to fight back. But when he saw Exquisite Dream, his raised foot suddenly froze in mid-air. How should one put it? Although Ling Longmeng was usually a recluse and rotten, and even the livestock in the town avoided her, in terms of appearance, Ling Longmeng was the most aloof of all the girls in the Chuanjin sect. Of course, I wasn't talking about her appearance. I was talking about the calm confidence that emanated from her bones. This kind of temperament was vividly reflected on Ling Longmeng. Even the most beautiful girl would pale in comparison to Ling Longmeng. After all, she was a girl from a rich family. This kind of innate temperament couldn't be imitated by others. Naruto's setting was to be lecherous. In theory, as long as it was a female, this kid would be passively seduced. Naturally, Naruto couldn't resist the temptation of a girl like Exquisite Dream. Naruto's eyes turned into a heart shape. He held his hands in front of his chest and shouted exaggeratedly, I'm so happy. I can actually spend a happy day with two beautiful ladies, as expected of a boss. It was a three-person world. It was quite high-end. You're crazy. Exquisite Dream was different from little girls like Yang Na. She was able to subdue a group of animals from the Chuanjin sect. Naturally, she wouldn't care about this level of sweet talk. She immediately raised her crossbow and aimed at Kikuchi Naruto. She raised her hand and used multiple arrow. Naruto leaned back to dodge the arrow. At this time, to place one's pride flew over with a shadow chain kick. Naruto was an epic boss. He had a combat growth characteristic. After being kicked by Wang Yu, He was naturally more cautious after seeing the shadow chain kick. Naruto couldn't dodge Wang Yu's ultimate skill, but to place one's pride could. Facing to place one's pride's attack, Naruto stepped on the ground. To place one's pride's kick missed and flew right above Naruto. At this time, Kakugio Naruto pressed his hands on the ground and kicked Gao's buttocks. Gao was kicked far away and fell heavily towards Yang Na. To place one's pride fell to the ground. In the blink of an eye, before Jiao could even land on the ground, Kakugio Naruto let out a loud roar and followed up with a kick towards Jiao's head. To place one's pride didn't have a lot of health. To place one's pride would probably be sent back to the city if he took another kick. Seeing that to place one's pride was about to be kicked to death, Yang Na stretched out her right hand and put to place one's pride on the ground. At the same time, she pulled out an arrow from her quiver and stepped in front of to place one's pride. She aimed the arrow at Naruto's soul. At the end of the day, Yang Na was also a martial artist. Saving people was an instinctive reaction. For a moment, she forgot that she was in a game. A fragile archer like her couldn't even be considered a normal attack. There was no way she could block an epic boss's skill. Eagle Stamp. Just when everyone thought that Naruto was about to kick Yang Na, Naruto suddenly retracted his foot in midair and forcefully landed on the ground. Bang! Naruto left a deep hole in the ground. Gao, Yang Na, and Exquisite Dream all had a series of question marks on their heads. Naruto stood in front of Yang Na and said in a panic, "Beautiful lady, why did you do that?" Hearing Naruto's words, Yang Na was speechless. Why did he do this? Were all the bosses so mysterious now? You're a boss. Your identity is the original sin. Isn't it normal for me to protect my companions? Before Yang Na could answer, to place one's pride hid behind Yang Na and provoked, "You want to kill me? You have to get past Sister Yuki first." Oomph. Naruto glanced at to place one's pride with eyes full of disgust and snorted, "I want to duel with you. If you lose, leave these two beautiful ladies." To place one's pride was stunned on the spot. He first looked at Yang Na, then at Exquisite Dream, and finally at Naruto, who had a look of disgust on his face. He said without hesitation, "Goodbye. Sorry for bothering you." To place one's pride turned around and walked away. Damn, dueling an epic boss, whoever agreed to it was an idiot. Of course, Wang Yu was an exception. F***CK. Are you looking down on us? Seeing to place one's pride choose to admit defeat, Exquisite Dream and Yang Na were furious. They walked over and pressed to place one's pride to the ground, kicking him while scolding, "You coward! What's wrong with fighting for us once? Hurry up and beat that psycho to death, or we'll kick you to death. Don't hit my face. Don't hit my face." To place one's pride cried miserably, "I accept the challenge. I accept the challenge right now." To place one's pride was now facing the most difficult choice of his life. Dueling with Naruto was a matter of certain death, but if he did not, to place one's pride could guarantee that he would not have a good time in the game, be killed by the boss, or suffer the endless torture of these two girls. Neither was a good choice, but it was better to get the pain over with. Pride was still young and had a long road ahead of him. Naturally, he knew what to choose. To place one's pride got up with tears streaming down his face. He braced himself and walked in front of Naruto, throwing a punch at him. Naruto calmly jumped back. Without even using his hands, he kicked to place one's pride with his right foot, then followed up with another kick at to place one's pride. To place one's pride, Quick recovered in the air and forced Eagle Stamp to land on the ground. He rolled backwards twice to pull away from Naruto, then turned around and started running with Naruto. To place one's pride was influenced by Wang Yu, and his agility increased quite a bit. His running speed was quite fast, and he could even drift and turn for time. It was difficult for Chick to turn an action RPG game into a running game. To place one's pride was being chased all over the place. A message from Wuji flashed in Xuanjin's guild channel. "Old Dream, Snowy, you two hold off the boss at close range. Let Chick deal damage." "Close range?" Exquisite Dream said. "I'm afraid we won't be able to hold off the boss for 3 seconds. Chapter 1335. While Exquisite Dream was hesitating, to place one's pride was finally caught by Kikuchi Naruto. To place one's pride screamed. In terms of commanding, Wuji was quite reliable. However, it was hard to believe that the archer with the longest arms would be able to fight against the Grandmaster of Combat with the shortest arms. However, Yangna was different from the other archers. She wasn't any weaker than the average Grandmaster of Combat in close combat. To place one's pride was defeated by the boss again. Yangna seemed to have thought of something. She directly rushed to Kikuchi Naruto, raised her crossbow, and pulled the trigger. Kikuchi Naruto slightly sidestepped, dodging Yangna's arrow. To place one's pride took the opportunity to climb up. Kikuchi Naruto finally caught to place one's pride. How could he let a place one's pride escape? He lifted his leg and was about to attack. To place one's pride's body swayed. Kikuchi Naruto's face changed. He forcibly stopped in front of Yangna. This kid was blocked by Yangna. Not only was he not angry, he even apologized to Yangna. "I'm sorry, beautiful lady. I've startled you. Please move aside." "I see." This time, Exquisite Dream finally saw the trick. This boss turned out to be a love-struck man. He didn't attack women. This was easy. With such an arrogant weakness, he still dared to come out. Did he think that there were no female players in the game? Yangna naturally wouldn't listen to the enemy's orders. Seeing that Kikuchi Naruto really didn't attack her, Yangna simply hung the crossbow on her waist and spread her arms to block Kikuchi Naruto. Kikuchi Naruto was still a gentleman. He turned around and was about to go around. At this time, Exquisite Dream also came up and spread her arms to block Kikuchi Naruto. Naughty. Kikuchi Naruto smiled slightly. He bent his knees and jumped to the side. It seemed that this gentleman was definitely not pretending. He would rather jump to the side than jump over a girl's head. However, just as the kid jumped up, Linglong Meng and Yangna looked at each other and rushed forward, each grabbing onto Kikuchi's left and right legs. Naruto only felt his feet sink, and he was dragged down from the air by the two girls. This time, Naruto panicked and waved his hands. "Ladies, get out of the way." Yangna and Linglong Meng didn't care about their image at all as they restrained Kikuchi Naruto on the spot. Even so, Kakuza Naruto still didn't attack the two girls, and even his tone didn't change. When Quan Jun and the others saw this, they could not help but exclaim, "This boss setting is really stupid." Zoro was fighting with Wang Yu not far away from Kikuchi Naruto. Of course, he saw Kikuchi Naruto's fate, so he raised his hand and a long sword flew towards Yangna's back. Clearly, Zoro had underestimated his opponent. Although Wang Yu didn't have the dragon's subduing palm state, and his stats were much lower than the boss, Wang Yu had the technique to suppress Zoro. It was only a matter of time before he killed Zoro. Zoro dared to be distracted while fighting with Wang Yu. Wasn't this looking for trouble for himself? Wang Yu's figure flashed and appeared behind Yangna. The weapon in his right hand changed to a long sword and flicked upwards, directly hitting Zoro's sword. Clang! A clear sound. Although Wang Yu's strength was far from Zoro's, this sword was used skillfully. With a flick to the side, he flicked Zoro's katana away from its original trajectory. Zoro stretched out his left hand and grabbed. The katana that fell to the ground jumped up and flew towards Zoro's palm. Wang Yu lowered his head and dived down. He rushed in front of Zoro and raised his sword to stab forward. Zoro grabbed another sword in his right hand and placed it in front of his chest. Clang! Another clear sound. The longsword blocked Wang Yu's longsword. "Umph. You want to stab me?" "You." Zoro laughed in disdain. Just as he was about to mock him, he suddenly felt a huge force hit his waist. Gotcha! Following a circle of blue light, Zoro felt his whole body go numb. He looked down and saw Wang Yu's big foot. Thunder stamp. So that sword was only a feint to interrupt Zoro's sword-grabbing action. The real attack was below. Thunder stamp had a force displacement effect. After being kicked by Wang Yu, Zoro couldn't control himself and retreated a few steps. He stabbed his long sword downwards to stabilize his body. Everyone played the game with the intention of taking advantage of every opportunity. Even in front of an expert like Wang Yu, no one could hide their greed for the boss. To place one's pride just now, when the boss was beating him up, no one helped. At this time, the two bosses were being stabilized by Chuanjin's group. The assassins from Point Heavenly Sword all sneaked over. It couldn't be helped. Everyone liked to help people who could win. They didn't dare to steal Wang Yu's boss, but if they helped her deal damage, they would at least get some experience, right? Everyone was in the same team, and the Quanzhan sect's people couldn't attack their companions, right? To have this kind of thinking, it was clear that Point Heavenly Sword and the others didn't understand how protective Chuanjin's people were. Naruto had just been kicked to critical health by Wang Yu. Now that he was being held back by Yang Na and the other two, he wasn't far from death under to place one's pride's attacks. At this moment, Point Heavenly Sword and the others reached Naruto's side and raised their hands to collect his head. Suddenly, they heard a kacha and an electric arc shot out from Naruto's body. Not good. It's chain lightning. By the time the assassins reacted, the scene was already covered in white light. Other than Chuanjin's group, there wasn't a single player beside Naruto. Mingdu extended his staff and raised an earth wall in front of to place one's pride's group and Point Heavenly Sword's group. Then, Mingdu fiercely said, "Anyone who crosses the wall will die." Mingdu instantly killed over a dozen of his companions with a raise of his hand. The savagery shocked everyone, and they all took a few steps back, not daring to approach to place one's pride's group. On Wang Yu's side, the assassins who didn't care about their lives had already stabbed their daggers into Zoro's back. As for these people, Mingdo ignored them. How could Zoro be the same as Naruto? Naruto, that love-struck fool, was not only a spent force, he was also being hugged by the two girls. He couldn't move at all. He was like a piece of meat on the chopping board. Anyone could take it. Zoro was different. That kid had a few blades on him. If Wang Yu wanted to compare who had more blades with him, he would have been instantly killed. At this moment, Wang Yu didn't have the dragon subduing palm state. He was only barely suppressing Zoro with his techniques and couldn't restrict his movements. Going up at this time was no different from throwing their lives away. Chuanjin's people didn't even dare to go up themselves. Others throwing their lives away had nothing to do with them. As expected, these assassins only attacked a bit. Zoro was immediately enraged. He suddenly turned around and shouted, "Tornado!" Chapter 1336. However, what made everyone feel strange was that after the assassins were killed, they didn't turn into white light and disappear. Instead, they turned into streaks of red light and were absorbed into Zoro's body. Wang Yu was no longer the noob from before. After fighting so many bosses, Wang Yu had accumulated a lot of experience. He knew that once this scene appeared, it meant that the boss was about to cause trouble. Thus, Wang Yu casually threw out a detect spell. F***CK. Seeing Zoro's attributes, Wang Yu's pupil shrank. In terms of attributes, Zoro didn't change much, but Zoro had an additional buff. Sword Saint Mark. Every time a target is killed, a layer of Sword Saint Mark is obtained. Each layer increases all attributes by 1%. Marks can be stacked up to 20 times. When all 20 layers are stacked, the ultimate form will be activated. Current mark, 15/20 layers. Stacking buffs after killing. Meow, there was actually such a thing. Actually, even if Zoro's strength was still within Wang Yu's range, with a 20% increase in strength, it would only take a bit more time for Wang Yu to finish him off. However, the ultimate form was something that Wang Yu couldn't be sure of. Since the start of the game, Wang Yu had seen so many bosses, but those that could transform were not easy to deal with. Now that Zoro had 15 layers of buff, he would be able to activate the ultimate form after killing another 5 people. Wang Yu wasn't worried about Chuanjin's people. These guys were very clever and would definitely be the first to run away if they encountered danger. However, it was hard to say for the Finger Heavens players. Couldn't they have just been bystanders? Why did they have to join in the fun and anger the boss? Zoro attacked Yang Na and the others. Wang Yu could easily block it since the 3 of them had a clear target. There were a total of 50 assassins in the Finger Heavens. Other than the dozen that Mingdu had killed and the 15 that Zoro had killed, there were still over 20 people left. There were so many people, but Wang Yu didn't recognize a single one of them. Who knew who Zoro's next target would be? It wasn't logical for Wang Yu to protect them all. In this moment of distraction, Zoro had already charged towards sword pointing the heavens. Everyone was like tigers entering a flock of sheep as they started a massacre. Wherever their long swords went, no one was left alive. In the blink of an eye, they had killed another 4 people, stacking the buff to 19 layers. Fortunately, Wu Ji never dropped the ball at crucial moments. He resolutely gave the order, kill. Upon receiving Wu Ji's order, the other members of Quan Zhun raised their weapons and pointed them at the people pointing their swords at the sky. Before the rest of the assassins knew what was going on, they were all sent back to Yu Huicheng by the Chuanjin people. Without a target, Zoro shifted his gaze to the Chuanjin group. Under Wu Ji's order, the Chuanjin group quickly gathered into a formation and hid behind Wang Yu. Zoro and Wang Yu had fought back and forth for a long time. He knew that he couldn't do anything to Wang Yu in a short time, so he simply flashed past Wang Yu and charged toward a place one's pride. At this moment, Naganori shouted, "Zoro, be careful to the east." Zoro was stunned and turned to look to the west. In the east, Wang Yu extended his staff and hit the back of Zoro's head. Zoro's head shook from a hit, and he casually threw his sword at Exquisite Dream and Yang Na. These 2 girls were very smart. They immediately let go of Naganori's legs and dodged to the side. Zoro's long sword stabbed into Naganori's chest. Team protection was something that only existed between players. There was no such thing between monsters. Naganori was already struggling at death's door. Now that he was hit by Zoro, there was no reason for him to live. Pooh! With a muffled sound, Naganori turned into a red light and drilled into Zoro's chest. Immediately after, a dark red flame barrier rose around Zoro. At the same time, the Chuanjin group received a system notification. Sword Saint Zoro's imprint has been stacked 20 times. Body of Azura activated. Body of Azura. Seeing the system notification, everyone looked at each other and said, "Could this be the legendary ultimate state?" Just as everyone was astonished, the barrier around Zoro shattered, and a monster covered in black flames walked out. The monster had 3 heads, 6 arms, and an incomparably tall and strong body. Each of its hands held a samurai sword. Even from far away, everyone could feel the violent aura it emitted. Azura Zoro, LV 80, Dark Gold, Epic, HP, 5000000 MP, 500000 skills. True Tornado, True 3000 Purgatory, True Avicii Hell Blast Talent. Sword Demon Background Introduction. A man who returned from hell and obtained the body of Azura. Killing is his most primal desire. Status: Body of Azura. Ultimate state activated by Sword Saint imprint. Duration: 300 seconds. F***CK. Currently, Zoro was a level 80 boss. Only Wang Yu could see his attributes. However, the Chuanjin group saw that Zoro became like this after killing Kikuchi Naruto. It was not hard to see that this guy was not to be trifled with. When Wang Yu sent Zoro's new attributes to the guild channel, everyone was completely dumbfounded. Meow, his HP did not increase, but this guy's level increased by 20. Level 80 was the peak of the profession. One more step, and he would be in existence beyond mortals. NPCs at this level were all tyrannical and unparalleled existences. One had to know that in Rebirth, there was a difference in strength between level 80 epic bosses and level 80 epic bosses, according to the setting of the background story. As the saying went, the dark state was 3 times stronger and the white state was 3 times weaker. The current Zoro was much stronger than City Lord Willie and Knight of the Round Table Esther that Wang Yu had encountered before. After all, even a powerhouse like Esther, who was 1 step away from breaking through to the peak, did not have Zoro's surging energy. Wu Ji muttered, "Looks like we won't be able to wait for Rubber Man. This guy should be the final boss." Roar. Zoro's state had a time limit. Naturally, he would not stand in place and play with Wang Yu. He only roared at the sky and turned his body. The 6 long swords in his hands carried a whirlwind and soared into the sky. Then Zoro raised the long swords in his hands, and the whirlwind flew toward the Chuanjin group. Second brother, go. As he spoke, Wuji gave Yin Lao Air a holy light shield. Yin Lao Air raised the shield and lowered his head to collide with the whirlwind. Zla! An ear-piercing sound was heard. Zoro's Gale Tornado was blocked by Yin Lao Air. Even in an invincible state, Yin Lao Air was forcefully pushed back a few meters. It was clear how strong this boss was. As for Wang Yu, he took the opportunity to jump in front of Zoro with his long rod. He raised the long rod and hit Zoro's chin. P.S. Hello everyone, I'm at 3 a.m. From today until the end of the 28th, I'll be at 3 a.m. every day. Chapter 13:37. Bang! Dash 2221 for Wang Yu's strike was aimed at the softest part of Zoro's jaw. Zoro had just used a skill and was still in a stunned state. When he was hit by Wang Yu's strike, he couldn't help but lean back a little. However, Zoro was now in the ultimate Shura state. Not only was his attributes overpowered, but he also had 3 heads and 6 arms. One head was kicked back, and the other 2 heads turned around at the same time. The katana in his hand suddenly rose up, aiming at Wang Yu's chest. Zoro's strength in the body of Shura was much stronger than before, and the speed of his attack was also extremely fast. It was too late for Wang Yu to jump back, so he instinctively pressed down with his staff, blocking Zoro's attack. Bang! The sword and staff collided with each other, making a muffled sound. Wang Yu suddenly felt his hand go numb, and a huge force was transmitted from the staff. After all, it was a transformed boss. How could Wang Yu compare to its strength? If he faced this head-on, even though Wang Yu's weapon was a divine weapon, it was inevitable that he would be shaken to death. In the blink of an eye, Wang Yu's feet pushed off the ground, and he jumped up. Zoro's strength was originally from the bottom up. Although Wang Yu's jump successfully offset the strength of Zoro's weapon, he also lost his balance and fell down the mountain in an arc bang. In midair, Wang Yu had just finished quick recovering and wanted to jump back up the mountain, but his back hit the mountain wall and he lost his balance again. He miserably fell to the bottom of the valley. Duan! At the bottom of the valley, Captain Don't Shoot was commanding his subordinates to slaughter the pirates. Wang Yu fell from the sky and directly landed at Captain Don't Shoot's feet. F***CK, what the hell? Captain Don't Shoot immediately pointed his staff at Wang Yu and was about to attack. Wang Yu reached out and grabbed Captain Don't Shoot's ankle and lifted him up. Wang Yu was confused and asked, "What are you trying to do?" Seeing that it was Wang Yu who fell from the sky, the captain's soul almost flew out of his body. He hurriedly said, "You scared me. I thought it was a pirate. That's not right. Weren't you up there? Why did you fall?" "Meow," Wang Yu said gloomily. "The 3-headed monster is too strong." 3. Freak. The captain didn't shoot. "What's that?" "It's just a boss." Wang Yu sat on the ground and explained. "Boss, let's go and help." Hearing that there was a boss at the top of the mountain, the party leader's eyes went wide. "You guys?" Wang Yu glanced at Don't Shoot and said, "It's not that I don't want to sound nice, but you guys are just going to die if you go up there. Didn't you see the team chat? The assassins under you are all dead." "All dead?" The party leader was shocked. "How is that possible?" Those 50 assassins were the elites of the elites in Finger Heaven. They were a first-rate team. They had only been up there for a while. How could they be gone so quickly? "What's impossible?" Wang Yu said gloomily. "I was even shot down by him." Air. Hearing Wang Yu's words, the party leader was 70% to 80% convinced. With Wang Yu's strength, the party leader didn't dare to question Don't Shoot's words. Even an overpowered player like him was shot down by the boss. It could be seen that the boss's strength wasn't something an ordinary person could deal with. It was reasonable that the others were killed. Thinking about this, the party leader carefully asked, "What about the other bosses in Chuanjin? Were they killed?" The party leader's question definitely wasn't, because he cared about the people in Chuanjin. He was looking at the casualties of the other guilds. It could be seen that this bastard wasn't a good person. He was still looking for a sense of balance at a time like this. Aya. Hearing the party leader's question, Wang Yu jumped up from the ground. I was just talking nonsense with you. Those animals in Chuanjin are still up there. As he said this, Wang Yu spread his wings and flew towards the top of the mountain. Just as Wang Yu was worried about, while he was wasting time with the party leader, the others in Chuanjin started fighting with Zoro. The epic-level boss was very smart. He knew how to choose a target to attack. After sending Wang Yu flying, Zoro jumped towards Wuji and the others. As a tank, Yin Lao Air's awareness was quite high. He raised a shield and pounced forward. Unfortunately, even Wang Yu didn't dare to go head-to-head with Zoro in sure state. Although Yin Lao Air was a tank, in Zoro's eyes, there was no difference between a shield bearer with 150,000 HP and a Grandmaster of Combat with 80,000 HP. With one slash, all four of Yin Lao Air's shield block values were cleared on the spot. The Divine God Shield was Yin Lao Air's lifeblood. If a person died, they could still revive. Of course, he couldn't ignore the shield. Yin Lao Air wouldn't joke around with the durability of the shield, so he immediately put it away. Without the shield block, Zoro's second slash landed on Yin Lao Air's neck. Yin Lao Air was cut into a white light. Seeing this, Chun Xiang raised his staff and quickly summoned 10 evil spirits to surround Zoro. Oof! A bunch of ants. Zoro sneered. He turned around and swung his sword. Sword light flashed. The 10 evil spirits were wiped out by Zoro in one round. Boom! Mingdu's magic was also ready at this moment. With the tip of his staff, a bucket-thick thunderstorm descended from the sky and landed on Zoro's head. -8555 for Mingdu's magic damage was surprisingly high. Zoro swayed slightly from the explosion. To place one's pride, rushed in front of Zoro and kicked at his waist. Zoro blocked to place one's pride with his katana. At the side, Bao San had already rushed to Zoro's right side and stabbed at him with his sword. One of Zoro's right hands hurriedly pulled out a sword to block Bao San. At this time, Yang Na and Exquisite Dream also raised their crossbows and attacked Zoro. Zoro once again used both hands to deflect the arrows flying at him. Zoro was also a level 80 epic boss, but Zoro was harder to deal with than other bosses that Wang Yu had seen. No matter how strong others were, they only had 2 hands and 1 weapon at most. Forget about this shameless guy with 3 heads and 6 arms. He even used 2 swords. 6 hands meant 6 swords. Wouldn't it be too heavy to bring so many weapons out? Don't look at Zoro's current appearance. He was very nimble, and his 6 swords protected his entire body from top to bottom. He actually had room to attack, even when fighting 1 against 5. F***CK. What a shameless boss. Seeing how Zoro's close combat skills were so ruffian, the Chuanjin people were speechless. This F***king fully demonstrated what it meant to be a single person was a team. This kind of defense without any blind spots was simply a bug. Just as Zoro was forcing the Chuanjin people to retreat, 2 assassins suddenly appear behind Zoro, one on the left and one on the right, stabbing towards Zoro's lower back. Although Zoro was being held back by the people of Chuanjin, he still had 1 hand free. He waved his katana behind him, and Shuel Yin, a swordsman, was sliced into 2 by Zoro. He transformed into a beam of white light and reincarnated. Only Baiming Yoyu's dagger stabbed into Zoro's waist. Chapter 1338. Zoro directly erupted with power and gave up on defending against the others' attacks. His 6 swords intersected with each other as he waved them outwards and shouted, 3,000 hells! Following Zoro's shout, a wave of sword light covered the area within 500 meters of his body. To place one's pride, Bao San and Baiming Yoyu were all melee professions. Zoro's move was too sudden, and no one was prepared at all. Baiming Yoyu didn't even have time to burrow into the ground before she was engulfed by the sword light and died on the spot. Now, Chuanjin only had long-range professions left. Everyone had seen Zoro's attack power. Without the front line, a few mere long-range professions definitely wouldn't be able to handle him. Seal the road. Protect me. Seeing Zoro rush towards everyone, Wuji gave Chun Xiang and Mingdu a look, and the two raised their staffs at the same time. Wuji extended his hand, and a small pink snake crawled out of his sleeve. Frost path, dark barrier. Following the two's magic chants, an ice path appeared under Zoro's feet, and a black circle appeared under the Chuanjin people's feet. Frost path had a deceleration effect. After Zoro was hit by Mingdu's magic, his speed instantly slowed down. When he rushed in front of the Chuanjin people, there was a boom. The dark barrier rose up and protected the Chuanjin people inside. At the same time, the barrier was gradually enveloped by a pink fog. Like a broken moon, Zoro swung his long sword, and a crimson-red sword light slashed across the dark barrier. Crash! The dark barrier was slashed into pieces. Zoro dodged and crashed into the pink fog. On the other side of the pink fog, the Chuanjin people saw Zoro diving into the fog and broke out in cold sweat. Wuji said with lingering fear, "This boss has no sense of direction. It seems like as long as we don't make a sound, he definitely won't come out. Once the Shura state disappears, I'm coming. Everyone don't panic." Before Wuji could finish his sentence, he suddenly heard a loud voice coming from midair. Then, a figure descended from the sky and landed steadily on the top of the mountain. The newcomer was 8 feet tall and sturdy, and exuded a heroic aura. In his hand was a long staff. Who else could it be but Wang Yu? F***ck me. Hearing Wang Yu's cry, Wuji's heart broke. Meow. You didn't come earlier or later. Why did you jump up at this time? It's fine if you jump up, but what are you shouting for? Wuji's fog could only completely trap targets within 5 levels of Wuji. Zoro was a level 80 boss, nearly 30 levels higher than Wuji. Although this boss had a bad sense of direction, it was still a high-level boss. It would have been better if everyone stayed still. This boss was definitely wandering around in the fog. If there was even the slightest sound from the outside world, the fog effect would be seen through. Wang Yu's shout was clearly to lead the way for the boss. As expected, Zoro had a super bad sense of direction. This brat was originally like a headless fly in the fog, wandering around in circles. Now that he heard Wang Yu's shout, he immediately had a direction. He lowered his head, bent over, and rushed in the direction of Wang Yu, directly breaking through Wuji's maze. We're done for. Seeing Zoro being released by Wang Yu, the Chuanjin people felt a chill in their hearts. Just now, the Chuanjin people had personally fought with Zoro. No one understood this fellow's strength better than them. 1 strike sent Wang Yu flying, 2 strikes killed Yin Lao Air, and 1 move instantly killed all the melee fighters. Not only was his attack power extremely high, but his movements were also swift. What was even more despicable was that this fellow had 3 heads and 6 arms, and there were no blind spots on his body. This kind of boss was not something any boss in the past could compare to. If they wanted to finish him off, they had to wait for the Shura state on his body to disappear. However, the Shura state lasted for a full 300 seconds. Not even 2 minutes had passed. Wuji had spent a lot of effort to set up a trap to trap him, and now he was released by Wang Yu. At this moment, everyone even had the thought of strangling Wang Yu to death. They all pointed at Wang Yu and said angrily, "Why are you shouting for no reason?" Wang Yu spread his hands and said, "I thought you guys were about to be beaten to death, so I was raising your morale. With me around, you guys have more courage." F***ck. Everyone was furious. This bastard clearly made a mistake, but he did not forget to mock them. He was really becoming more and more annoying. Wuji said unhappily, "We didn't have to die, but now that you lured him out with your shout, we're dead for sure." "It can't be." Wang Yu glanced at Zoro, who was pouncing over, and said, "Just him." Wang Yu's attitude in the face of a boss really made people feel helpless. Everyone reminded him, "Don't be pretentious. This guy isn't the previous boss. He's very powerful." Indeed, for such a boss, apart from the duration of the state, they really could not find any weakness. As they spoke, Zoro had already rushed in front of Wang Yu. 6 swords came out at the same time, slashing from 6 directions. Having many hand was awesome. Not only was there no weakness in defense, but there were also no corners to attack. The 6 swords directly sealed all the space around Wang Yu. However, facing Zoro's attack, Wang Yu did not panic at all. Instead, he narrowed his eyes and flipped forward, going from Zoro's crotch to Zoro's back. At the same time, he half squatted on the ground and formed a claw with his right hand, grabbing at Zoro's crotch from behind, using Fierce Tiger Strike. Although grabbing someone's vitals looked despicable, don't think that Wang Yu's attack was vicious. After all, Kung Fu was a killing technique. As long as he could quickly make the opponent lose the ability to fight, that would be the most effective move. This Tiger Claw exterminating hand was Wudong's secret technique, specifically aimed at the waist. Who would dare say that Wudong's sect was despicable? It was true that Zoro had 3 heads and 6 arms, but he only had 1 pair. When he was pulled down by Wang Yu's claw, he immediately cried out, -5235, following a mournful scream. Zoro's 3 heads and 6 eyes shed tears at the same time. There is no need to mention how strange that feeling was. Normal people would be incomparably angry when their vitals were attacked, let alone a boss like Zoro. The angry Zoro turned his arms back and swung his 2 swords up and down. This time, Zoro had learned his lesson. He knew that Wang Yu's methods were despicable, so he deliberately left 4 hands to protect his vitals. Facing the 2 swords coming at him, Wang Yu stabbed his staff into the ground. He grabbed the staff with both hands and exerted force. His entire body moved horizontally, dodging between Zoro's 2 swords. Do! The 2 swords chopped onto Wang Yu's staff. The powerful force sent the staff flying. Wang Yu took advantage of the situation and jumped to Zoro's side. He turned around and stabbed the staff between Zoro's eyebrows on the left side of his head. Dong! -2114, 5 damage values floated up. Zoro's sword subconsciously slashed over. Wang Yu calmly moved to the side and raised his hand. Before Zoro's weapon could land, Wang Yu's staff hit his chest. Bang! -14,454. Chapter 1339. As the saying goes, an inch longer is an inch stronger. Wang Yu's body was tall and sturdy, and his attack range with the staff was even further than Zoro's katana. For long weapons, the further away from the opponent, the easier it was to attack and defend. Moreover, staff techniques were different from saber techniques. Saber techniques focused on using strength to break the enemy, while staff techniques focused on combining strength and gentleness. Strength could split stone, gentleness used gentleness to overcome strength. It required a high level of skill. As a Kung Fu grandmaster, Wang Yu's use of the staff was naturally at the pinnacle. He could advance and retreat freely as he moved. Whether it was using strength to attack or controlling and blocking, it was all perfect. Zoro had heaven-defying attributes, but when he hit Wang Yu's staff, Wang Yu only needed to turn his wrist and the power would be dispersed. It didn't have any effect at all. Instead, Wang Yu took advantage of Zoro's stupor to continuously counterattack, causing Zoro to cry out. A string of damage values floated up from Zoro's head. Seeing Wang Yu leisurely stroll around Zoro and freely attack, everyone in Xuanzhen's jaw dropped to the ground. Everyone knew Zoro's strength, and everyone was naturally familiar with Wang Yu's abilities. Even though Quan Zhen and the others had already predicted that the boss would end up like this, they didn't dare to imagine that such a powerful boss, who had left them with no chance of fighting back, would actually be unable to resist Wang Yu at all. This was too hurtful to their pride. F***CK. Was everyone really fighting the same boss? There was no way around it. Although Zoro in the Shura state had 3 heads and 6 arms, and his attributes had greatly increased, his agility was much worse than the original Zoro. As the saying goes, speed is the only thing that cannot be broken in the world of martial arts. The reason why Wang Yu could kill everyone in Rebirth was because he had a set of heaven-defying skills. Against a high-tech player like Wang Yu, extreme speed was the most effective. As for reducing agility in order to increase strength, that was the complete opposite. After all, with Zoro's attack power, it was more than enough to instantly kill Wang Yu. Wasn't the Titan Arceus strong? Even in front of Wang Yu, he was still defeated. In comparison, in Wang Yu's eyes, the current Azura God Zoro was easier to deal with than the previous Zoro. Currently, Chuanjin's remaining experts were all long-ranged classes. With Wang Yu suppressing Zoro, Zoro was powerless to care about the others. Naturally, everyone could go all out without any fear of Wuji, simply standing in place and dealing damage. In an instant, all sorts of powerful damage output skills smashed onto Zoro. Chuanjin's group might not dare to boast about anything else, but their equipment was definitely first-rate in the game. In terms of damage output, they weren't any weaker than first-rate pro players. Just Mingdu alone, the explosive mage, could deal close to 6 digits in damage with a single skill. Not to mention, there was also the powerful damage dealer Yangna. Zoro only had 5 million HP in his sure state. Under the combined attacks of Wang Yu and everyone else, his HP quickly turned red and fell below 30%. After fighting so many bosses, everyone knew that there was a chance of a boss going berserk after reaching red blood. Thus, everyone became cautious when they saw Zoro's HP turn red. As expected, at this moment, Zoro's body flashed with a golden light, activating super armor. Wang Yu leaped forward and was about to forcefully grab and interrupt Zoro's transformation. Suddenly, a black light burst forth from Zoro's body and pushed Wang Yu away. Immediately after, the katana in Zoro's hand turned into a light and drilled into Zoro's body. The empty-handed Zoro's 6 hands clasped together in front of his chest. Wong! With a sword hum, the 6 katanas turned into sword shadows and surrounded Zoro, forcing back Wang Yu, who jumped over once again. Hell of a Visinaraka. At this moment, Zoro's 6 eyes turned red. He half-knelt on the ground and slammed his 3 right hands onto the ground at the same time. Streaks of black and red sword shadows fell from the sky, instantly covering the entire 1500 range around Zoro. A distance of 1,500 was 15 meters. Chuanjin's group was all within this range. Wang Yu's reaction was extremely fast. Before Zoro released his skill, he quickly used Qin Gong and jumped out of Zoro's skill range. Chun Xiang had the atomization technique and was immune to physical attacks. Mingdu had instant movement and could naturally protect himself. As for Yang Na and Exquisite Dream, they could only sit and wait for death. In the nick of time, Wuji raised his hand, and a red and white light enveloped Yang Na and Ling Longmeng. Boom! The sword light landed and blasted a large hole in the ground. The smoke dispersed and revealed Yang Na and Exquisite Dream's figures. Only Wuji was blasted into pieces by the attack just now. How could this be? Seeing that his big move only took away an insignificant priest, Zoro's pupils shrank, and he revealed a panicked expression. At the same time, the black and red light on Zoro's body dissipated. The sure state disappeared, and Zoro became an ordinary person again. He knelt on the ground in despair. Wang Yu leaped forward and activated Burst Fist. Then, her figure flashed, and she instantly crossed a distance of 1,500 meters to Zoro's side. She extended her hand and grabbed Zoro's hair with a ferocious tiger strike. She then raised her knee and kicked Zoro's face. Rising Dragon Fist. Levitate. Elbow Strike. Pursuit. Sidekick. Double Levitate. Inner Chi surged. Break Flash Shadow Killing Chain Kick. Bang. 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 Accompanied by rhythmic strikes, Wang Yu's combo landed on Zoro's body. Zoro was already in red blood with only 5 million health left. Although the power of the Flash Shadow Killing Chain kick couldn't compare to the dragon subduing Palm's Dragon Tail Whip, it wasn't much weaker. With one kick, Zoro's health dropped to less than 10%. In mid-air, Wang Yu somersaulted backward and landed lightly. He then calmly snapped his fingers. Break. -11242222. A huge damage number floated up, and Zoro turned into a ray of white light. Crash, a large amount of shiny things fell to the ground. System notification. Port City's bandit leader has been eliminated. Pirate morale decreased by 50%. All stats decreased. After such a long battle, less than 10,000 pirates have been slaughtered. At this time, he received a system notification telling the captain not to shoot and immediately ordered an all-out attack. These pirates had been poisoned by Chun Xiang's weakening potion and weren't very strong. Under Wu Ji's tactical arrangements, the battle could be said to be a one-sided massacre. Now that their stats had decreased by another 50%, their strength couldn't even compare to level 40 monsters. For level 50-plus players, bullying level 40 monsters was a piece of cake. The number of pirates in Wong Yu's quest window rapidly decreased. From the start of the attack until now, only 30 minutes had passed. It seemed like Wu Ji would definitely win this bet. The only regret was that Wu Ji had died in the battle just now and couldn't see this ending. However, to the people of Chuanjin, the bet was secondary. The most important thing was, of course, Zoro's inheritance after his death. This was a proper epic boss, and it was a first kill. The items definitely wouldn't be bad. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.